Psychology two-day meeting, November 6th and November 7th, 2025 to order, and ask that Ms. Whitney please call the roll.
Tate,
Here.
Rogers, Suga,
Here.
Cervantes,
Here.
Harbsheets,
Here.
Fu, Nystrom,
Here.
Riscate.
Here.
Thank you. Quorum's established.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to see new faces in the audience. The board has not been to Riverside in some time, and we're excited to be here for the next 2 days. Before we start today, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping items. We have a petition hearing scheduled for 10 a.m. today, so we will be stopping at 9:45 to allow the setup for that petition hearing. Also, restrooms are out the doors to the left and are right before the elevators. And lastly, all of us, well, you can see we're all on computers. All of our materials are on the computer, so we will be referring to the computers over the next 2 days. I would like to give Mr. Polk a few moments to explain how to earn and document your continuing professional development hours.
Thank you and good morning. Attending today's in-person with CPD credit under category number 1, attendance at a California Board of Psychology meeting. Since today's meeting is designated as an in-person meeting, CPD credit will only be given for in-person attendance, and CPD credit will not be given for viewing the meeting through the WebEx, as the WebEx is for streaming purposes only, and there is no option to interact during the public comment periods. For attendees who are in person with us today, the sign-in sheet provided will be the board's record of your attendance, so please sign in and out as needed for today's meeting. For your CPD records, please notate today's date as November 6, 2025, and note that we are here for the board meeting. Please maintain this record, as certificates of attendance will not be provided for attending today's meeting. At the end of the meeting today, I will announce how many hours will be credited for attending the full meeting. If you must leave before the meeting has adjourned for the day, please sign out and you'll be credited for the time that you did attend. Again, at the end of today's meeting, I will announce how many hours will be credited for attending the full in-person meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Polk. We typically jump into Dr. Rogers' mindfulness exercise, but she is unable to attend the meeting today. So I'll ask if there's board comment on the president's welcome. Thank you. Is there public comment on the president's welcome? If so, please come forward, have a seat before the microphone. You have a comment for the president's welcome?
Welcome, but a comment from the public, is this the time or later on?
Hold on a moment. You jumped the gun, but we're diving right in. Agenda item number 3 is public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Before I invite speakers to come forward for public comment, I would ask individuals making comments to not discuss the specifics, including names as to pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary action that may come before the board for a decision. This refers to current and pending complaints and possible future complaints. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. While there may be a desire to engage in further discussion with comments presented. Oh, I'm so sorry. I created my own technical difficulty. Is that okay? Yes. Perfect. While there may be a desire to engage in further discussion with comments presented during this time, the board may not discuss or take action on any matter. If there is a speaker that presents a comment before you that you strongly agree with, feel free to come forward and say, I agree with the previous speaker. Can the public raise their hand if they would like to make a comment during this time? Thank you. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. If you have a comment, please come forward and have a seat before the microphone.
Are the packets, please? Okay, if I give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
prepared a written statement, but I'm gonna make it shorter to make
Please pull the microphone closer so everyone can hear.
this better.
That is much better. Thank
All
you.
right. I prepared a written statement, but I'll keep it shorter so to be within the 2 minutes. All right. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Dr. Itai Rikon Becker. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at UCLA and a licensed clinical psychologist in Israel. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here because my application to register as psychological associate was denied, and I respectfully ask the board to reconsider that decision. If we compare California's registration requirements with my qualifications and include my master's degree in clinical psychology training, 4 years of clinical psychology residency, and my PhD in psychology combined, they fulfill the intent of the business and practices code 2913 for registration. I'm not going to go over all of the criteria, but I do hold.
If this is about your personal application, you cannot proceed with that comment.
So I do believe that this statement applies to other candidates as well, just in the way the process is being done.
That's fine, but we cannot talk about your personal application.
I understand.
Okay, please.
Right. So for applicants who come from Israel, for instance, the PhD process and the clinical training is different, but I maintain that in essence, it is equivalent to a clinical psychology program here in the US. We need to undergo a master's in clinical psychology, practicum, 4 years of residency, totaling about 6,000 hours of supervised structured experience. In some cases, rejection and denial of request could be based on the transcripts of the PhD alone, but considering only the transcripts of the PhD provides an incomplete picture. I believe the board would be doing a good service to applicants and to potential patients in the future if the board might consider to include in that review process a broader evaluation of all of our training. I fully respect the board's mission to protect the public and to provide and make sure that care is provided with high standards. And thank you for your consideration, time, and your service. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other individuals with public comment at this time? Please come forward. And again, just a reminder, this is public comment for items not on the agenda.
Yes, my name is Dr. Robert Teal. Last meeting, there was on the agenda item a revisions to the disciplinary guidelines, which is not on today's agenda. So I just wanted to make one comment. We would like to propose again that the following items be added to the motion to revise them, or the disciplinary guidelines.
Can I interrupt you? Actually, the disciplinary guideline comment or agenda item is number 22A, and it's scheduled for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll comment there then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment for agenda items that are not on the agenda? Perfect. Thank you so much. Agenda item number 4 is discussion on possible approval of the board meeting minutes from August 22nd, 2025.
I move to adopt.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other board comment? Thank you. I'd like to open this agenda item up for public comment. This is agenda item number 4, possible approval of the board meeting minutes from August 22nd, 2025. Thank you. Ms. Whitney, please call the roll.
Tate,
Aye.
Rogers, Kasuga,
Aye.
Cervantes,
Abstain.
Arbsheets,
Aye.
Fu, Nystrom,
Aye.
Rescate.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the president's report. Included in your meeting materials is the 2026 meeting calendar, and this includes all committee meetings and board meetings. Any board comment regarding the president's report? Any public comment regarding the president's report? If so, please come forward. Thank you. Moving on to the executive officer's report, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. I'll give a staffing update first. There is one board member vacancy. It's a governor's appointee for a licensed member. In terms of board staff, we have a new enforcement program manager. His name is Daniel Phillips. He's taking on the role after Sandra Monterrubio was made assistant executive officer. So we're very excited to have him join the management team. There are 2 AGPA vacancies in the enforcement unit, which we are actively hiring. We've conducted interviews on one of the candidates, and we'll be reviewing applications for the other one. Another update is I attended the ASPPB mid-year meeting as the board's delegate. I attended remotely on the one day of when they had the business items, and I voted yes on the ASPPB bylaws as the board had delegated to me at the August board meeting. I will have updates regarding outreach and the EPPP, my work with ASPPB and the EPPP tomorrow when we take up that agenda item. Thank you.
Any board comment for Mr. Burke at this time? Any public comment for agenda item number 6? This is the executive officer's report. If you do have a comment, please come forward. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7. This is the DCA update. Mr. Burke.
Yes, thank you. DCA would normally send a representative to the meeting, but this is the busiest meeting week of the year. I think there's 7 boards also having their meetings today, so they're stretched a bit thin. So they've asked me to provide an update on their behalf. We have a new board and bureau relations team. The governor appointed Lucy Saldivar as the deputy director of board and bureau relations, and Shelley Jones was appointed as Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations. I've worked a lot with Ms. Jones. She's wonderful, and I'm sure she'll be a tremendous asset and help to the boards. And I'm looking forward to working with Ms. Saldivar as well. Updates on board member trainings. Sexual harassment prevention training is mandated for completion within 30 days of your appointment to the board and every 2 years thereafter. On October 27th, DCA launched its new sexual harassment prevention training. It's in the Learning Management System, or LMS. If you completed the 24-25 training, the new training will be automatically assigned to your LMS account 2 months before your 2-year mark. If you have not completed the 24-25 sexual harassment prevention training, the new version was already assigned to your LMS account. On October the 27th, you can log in and begin the training. The compliance deadline will either be 2 years from the last completion date for those that took the training, or by December 27th for those that did not. Upon completion of the new training, it will be automatically reassigned to your LMS account biennially. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to member relations. Additionally, DCA has developed an unconscious bias training for board members. The training will be added to your LMS accounts in November, as well as incorporated into all onboarding when new board members are appointed. And finally, every year through the Our Promise campaign, California State Employees, it's a California State Employees charitable campaign. State employees, including board members, have the opportunity to support the nonprofit causes they are passionate about through payroll giving or one-time donation. The campaign runs through December 31st, and DCA will be emailing information to board members this month. Thank you. That concludes the DCA update.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Any board comment regarding the DCA update? Any public comment regarding the DCA update? Please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. We will take a break at this time and set up for our next agenda item, which is a petition hearing that will promptly begin at 10 a.m. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome back Ms. Whitney, can you please call the roll?
Tate,
Here.
Rogers, Kasuga,
Here.
Cervantes,
Here.
Harpsheet,
Here.
Fu, Nystrom,
Here.
Rescate.
Here.
Thank you. Quorum's established.
Thank you so much. It is 10:05 and we're going to begin a petition hearing. And at this time, I will turn over the microphone. Thank you.
Morning, Thomas Heller, an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I'm going to be conducting the petition hearing for the board. So this is the petition.
Are the mics on?
This is the moderator. May I please ask that Dr.
that's fine.
Harpsheets and Ms. Cervantes please turn on their
Again, I'm
cameras?
Thomas Heller, administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I'm going to preside over the petition hearing this morning on behalf of the Board of Psychology. So this is the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Amy V. Thompson. It has a board case number of 6002-024-000986. And if I could get appearances of the parties, first counsel for the petitioner.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. I am attorney Dr. Bruce Ebert, representing the petitioner.
Good morning, Your Honor and board members. Rebecca Smith, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the Attorney General's Office and the people of the state of California.
All right, good morning to you both. I have here a petition packet of exhibits from the Attorney General. I assume is this the complete record or the complete packet of exhibits for the petition?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right, and is there any objection to those being admitted?
Absolutely not. No objection.
All right, very well. So what I have here showing as exhibits 1 through 8. So those will be marked and admitted per the agreement of the parties. So with that, then I would like to hear or ask if either or both sides wishes to make an opening statement. Since it is the petitioner's petition, I'll ask you first, sir, Mr. Ebert, do you wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, Dr. Tate, members of the board, staff, thank you for the opportunity to present our argument and evidence for the reinstatement of Dr. Amy Thompson. After what you should conclude is the most thoughtful, diligent, ethical, technical, therapeutic, and dedicated rehabilitation I believe this board has ever seen. If the board truly believes in the scientist practitioner model for the practice of psychology that recognizes that humans can change, then this is that unique case where there's no evidence of defensiveness, complete acceptance of responsibility. Lost my track. Difficult work she has done in psychotherapy for more than 15 years, along with competent psychiatric care. Dr. Thompson understands that if if her reinstatement is granted, there will be considerable terms and conditions, and there should be. On a personal note, at my age, with my battle with cancer this year, I thought about some kind of a legacy in my life and trying to be guided by doing the right thing, even when right is sometimes quite difficult. She surrendered her license to practice psychology with an effective date of January 11, 2007. As you know from the information provided, I turned down her case at that time. She requested that I represent her in the ongoing administrative action against her. Part of the history that led to my decision was that former executive officer Tom O'Connor and I, when I was president of this board, drafted the original language for BNP 2960.5 that required mandatory revocation for any psychologist guilty of a sexual offense. I followed that in 2006 with the publication of my book on multiple role relationships. That was an ethically conservative approach. And it's available, by the way, at Amazon for 25 cents now. That was a joke. To orient you, the field of psychology has adopted the scientist practitioner model, as you all are aware, after the 1949 conference in Boulder, Colorado. This model has been labeled as the Boulder model and is present today across the United States and Canada. It stands for the application of scientific data-based principles in the practice of psychology. If you examine Dr. Thompson's behavior from a scientific perspective from 2007 to the present, she has methodically approached rehabilitation scientifically as well as methodically and therapeutically. You have the history, you have our extensive brief. You can now see Dr. Thompson and ask questions. You will see her honesty, her compassion, her positive human qualities. She's not defensive at all. And allow me to highlight a few mitigating factors from my standpoint. Things that I can say and that she doesn't even completely accept because she accepts total responsibility. But from my more than 42 years of practice, my 9 years on this board, 5 terms as president, involvement in ASPPB for many, many years, teaching ethics and law for more than 2 decades, including at UC Davis School of Medicine, and having actually sat through many petitions. I just have not ever seen a case of rehabilitation like this. She was thrust into a prison environment, as you all know, with a highly manipulative level 4 inmate with very little supervision. Yes, she should have done things differently. She did ask for help. She asked for help from her supervisors who were essentially non-existent. And when she finally went to a supervisor and said, "What do I do with this person? The officers are telling me there might be a problem." His response was, "Well, start seeing him more." She accepts complete responsibility for her errors in judgment, behavior, and failing to adhere to her ethical obligations with her inmate client. What she's done in terms of rehabilitation is nothing short of amazing. She began psychotherapy with Dr. Diamond, and you have a letter from Dr. Diamond following the interview that your own investigator conducted with her. She started with Dr. Diamond in 2010. She has gone to therapy weekly, sometimes twice a week, with the same therapist for 15 years. That very senior level therapist, licensed in 1990, who is in complete support of her petition for reinstatement. She also sought psychiatric care, which was critical to her diagnosis of bipolar disorder. She initially started with Dr. Demanji on or about 2010, and she stayed with him until he retired. There is not a single scintilla of evidence showing that she ever was non-compliant with medication. And Dr. Tate, you know from your work as a senior level forensic psychologist that one, you can see medication changes people dramatically. It is life-changing, life-altering, and permanent. You also know, as you other board members are aware, that psychotropic medication has a huge dropout rate, close to 100%. But Dr. Thompson has been able to stay with it for 15 years, never being non-compliant. And her compliance has shown that she has regained stability and maintained stability across time. Her psychologist, Dr. Diamond, and her former psychiatrist, Dr. Dumanji, spoke with each other. They consulted with each other. Why did she stop seeing Dr. Dumanji in 2023, roughly at the end of 2023? Well, he retired. And immediately she sought treatment with Dr. Kearney. And Dr. Kearney and Dr. Diamond have been working together and consulting to keep her on a positive track. In terms of stability, she's been married 25 years. She has 3 children, Henry 20, Adrian 18, Sam 16. She took in an adolescent who needed a place to live as a foster child in January 23. And he was able to be launched into the community as an 18-year-old in September 2024. It's a testament to her kind heart and the belief that she has a responsibility to make the world a better place. You know the facts about her license. She became licensed in September 15, 2003. On or about May 30th, 2024, we filed the petition for reinstatement. Your investigator got the case June 3rd, 2024. The investigator requested additional information, and we responded within 13 days with complete open information that you have before you in her petition statement and in our brief. I'm going to skip that. 15 years of psychotherapy, and we know psychotherapy dropout rates approach 60% in about a 12-month period. She stuck with it. She's also been working in clinical activities. And this would be my big question if I were in your position. I'd say, well, she's been out of the field for a long time. You know, what's the evidence that shows, you know, she under supervision and with terms and conditions can practice safely? That's your mandate. You're a consumer protection agency. Well, she worked at an entity called RAIN that deals with rape and incest. And she's been doing clinical activities under close supervision, clinical activities that do not require a license, because as you know, you can practice without a license as long as you don't charge a fee. I had that case once. She's also been teaching. She taught at National University psychology from 2010 to 2018, including abnormal psychology. She's currently teaching at Palomar since 2016. She does clinical work for the Postpartum Health Alliance, doing clinical work with a wide variety of individuals with postpartum problems. And so she's dealt with special needs and special needs children and the education system. And some of the members of this board have been heavily involved in dealing with education issues as a primary focus of their career. Dr. Cervantes has 2 decades of experience advising education leaders. And you obviously clearly understand the difficulties that my client has had to endure in fighting for 3 children who have special needs, and yet maintaining stability for the entirety of that time. So she knows there may be onerous terms and conditions. Close supervision, coursework, additional CE, possible psychological evaluation. Well, I'd say a probable psychological evaluation that meets the needs of the board. I ask you to believe in the human spirit. Believe in human goodness. Believe what this field is about, which is about the fundamental belief that people can and do change, and can and do change for the long run. Now, that's my opening statement. And according to the rules, I understand I have a total of 30 minutes. Do you want Ms. Smith to go? What's your pleasure?
Yes, the board would like opening statements first. So if that's complete, thank you. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Briefly, Your Honor and board members. On September 15th, 2023, the board issued a psychology license to petitioner. 3 years later, on September 21st, 2006, an accusation was filed against petitioner setting forth 2 causes for discipline: sexual misconduct with a patient engaging in dishonest, corrupt, and fraudulent acts, and engaging in dishonest, corrupt, and fraudulent acts. I will summarize the background of this case to give context to today's testimony. Petitioner began employment as a staff psychologist at R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility, a state prison, on or about July 1st, 2004. On or about September 28th, 2004, petitioner began treating an inmate for problems associated with mood instability and self-injurious behavior. In February of 2005, the prison correctional staff became concerned that petitioner was becoming too familiar and friendly with this inmate. As a result, in March of 2005, this inmate was assigned to another clinician. However, petitioner continued to visit the inmate after the reassignment. An internal affairs investigation was conducted at the prison. A search of the inmate's prison cell resulted in the discovery of photographs of an unidentified woman dressed only in underwear. The woman's face was not in photographs, as well as numerous sexually graphic letters to the inmate with a return address that was actually the address of the inmate's mother. The investigation also revealed that the inmate wrote letters in response to the letters found in his prison cell, and those letters were sent by the inmate to a post office box owned by petitioner. The letters exchanged between petitioner and the inmate were of a personal nature, overly familiar, and some were explicitly sexual. Petitioner admitted that the photographs were of her, that she took the photographs and she sent them to the inmate. She also admitted that she provided the inmate with her personal post office box address so she and the inmate could correspond with one another. She admitted that the letters found in the inmate's prison cell were mostly all written by her, and that she used a return address for these letters, the address of the inmate's mother, to avoid suspicion by prison officials. She admitted to having made a personal trip to visit the inmate's mother and had made at least 2 telephone calls to the inmate's mother as well. There was no evidence of actual sexual contact between petitioner and the inmate. Petitioner resigned from prison employment on March 22nd, 2005, while still under investigation. In November of 2006, petitioner entered into a stipulated surrender of her psychology license. Effective January 11th, 2007, the board adopted petitioner's stipulated surrender of her license. On May 30th, 2024, petitioner submitted her petition for reinstatement and seeks reinstatement of her psychology license. And that's what brings us here today before the board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so Mr. Ebert, I've addressed the exhibits that the Attorney General's offered. Those are all admitted per your stipulation. You have the opportunity now to present any additional evidence you wish with regards to the petition. Are you going to?
Yes, Your Honor.
How would you like to proceed, sir?
I'm ready to question the witness.
All right, that's Ms. Thompson? Yes, all right. I'm going to administer an oath to you then, ma'am. If you could raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may put your hand down. So the process we'll follow is your counsel will start with the questions, and then Ms. Smith will have the opportunity to ask you questions as well. And after that, if any of the board members have questions, we will poll the board as to whether they do, and they'll get the opportunity to ask those as well. Right now, sir, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Thompson. I just want to, you elected to surrender, did you elect to surrender your license?
I did.
You weren't coerced,
No.
were you?
No.
Okay. And how old were you roughly when you got your doctorate?
28, I think, right around there.
And then how old are you now?
I am 51 next week, I think. I
Okay,
think it's next week.
it is. All right, so when did you first approach Dr. Diamond to seek her out as a psychotherapist?
In early 2010.
And how long have you seen her? Are you still seeing her?
I've been seeing her since that time, usually once a week, sometimes twice a week, periods of twice a week when needed. I haven't needed that kind of frequency in years. I can't remember the last time.
Is it your intent to continue seeing Dr. Diamond, no matter what happens here?
Absolutely.
So let's say your petition is granted. You're under oath telling this board that you will continue psychotherapy potentially
Yes,
for many years.
yes.
Thank you. You also sought a psychiatrist at one time. Who was that?
Dr. Namir Damluji,
And when was that?
it was early 2011, I
Okay.
think.
Did you see him continuously from 2011 to whenever you stopped seeing him?
Yeah, I wrote down the date so I remember. December 28th, 2023 was my last visit with him. And yes, I saw him in the beginning. I was seeing him about once a week, and we were doing psychotherapy as well. Then we went to one every 2 weeks, once a month. And I think that's where we leveled out, I was seeing him about once a month for the duration of my treatment with him.
And did he prescribe psychotropic medication to you?
He did.
And you stopped seeing him when now?
December of 2023.
Okay. So why did you stop seeing him?
He retired.
And what did you do after that?
Well, I knew he was in the process of retiring, so I arranged to have a psychiatrist lined up before he even left, so that I knew I needed to, have coverage, so I wasn't left without care.
And who was that?
Jennifer Kearney,
Okay.
DO.
Dr. Kearney?
Mm-hmm.
And so approximately when did you start seeing Dr. Kearney?
January of 2024.
So basically a month later,
Yes,
you went to a new psychiatrist?
yes,
And have you been going and attending regular psychiatric visits since that time?
yes,
And are you intending to continue psychiatric visits from now and into the future?
yes.
Does Dr. Kearney and Damluji, did they prescribe medication for you?
Yes.
What's a flavor of some of the medication you were prescribed?
I take lithium, Lamictal, modafinil, Wellbutrin, Seroquel. I think that covers it.
Has there ever been a time since 2011 where you have not been compliant with your psychotropic meds? You understand my question?
I do.
Okay.
No, and even before 2011, when I've ever been on psychotropic meds specifically, but medical care in general, I've never been non-compliant, especially with the meds, the psychotropic meds, because I have seen what it's like.
So you take your psychotropic medication as prescribed?
Yes,
Have you ever not taken it as prescribed?
never.
And then now that you have a new psychiatrist, Dr. Kearney, are you aware, do you have any personal knowledge whether Dr. Kearney and Dr. Diamond speak with each other?
They do.
Okay. So they stay up on your
They collaborate.
case. All right. This is a tough question. Do you believe you're stable at this point?
I do.
And you do have some other factors that are relevant to stability, and I want to touch on those. You're married.
I am.
For how long?
25 years this past May.
In fact, when all this happened, when you acted inappropriately, were you married?
I was.
And your husband has stuck with you?
He has.
Okay. And to be extremely personal, any indications he's not going to stay with you for the length of your life?
No, no.
Okay.
He's,
Has
he's
he-
so stable. He's,
And you also have 3 children.
I do.
What ages are there?
2018 and 16.
And you've had, have you had to fight with school districts regarding any learning issues at all?
All 3 of my kids have IEPs. And with my oldest, we had a 5-year legal battle when he was in elementary school. He has severe learning disabilities, and we succeeded in getting him placed at a non-public school, a different school, so that his needs would be addressed, and he was there until he graduated from high school.
And during that 5-year battle, it's fair to say it was stressful.
It was.
Did you ever at any time become unstable during that 5-year battle with the school district?
No.
And then you also have another child with some other issues?
My middle child is transgender, and well, when you have a child that comes out as transgender, there's a bit of a, blowback where you kind of have to get gather yourself. But we quickly, my husband and I, my mom, everybody, them being transgender is not an issue for us, but the fallout from basically the rest of the world having an issue with it is something that we deal with all the time.
And do you have a support system?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about your support system. You have family
I do.
who are helping you?
Yes.
And who are they?
My mom and my dad passed away last year, but my mom was my dad, and my brother and sister-in-law and niece and nephew.
And where do they live in relation to where you live?
They both live within a mile of my home.
So do they interact with you regularly?
Yeah, we get together, I want to say perhaps once every 2 weeks to have dinner at my mom's house, the whole lot of us.
And then what about friends? Do you have a friend support system
I do.
to help you?
I do.
Speak briefly about that.
My friend circle, I still live in my hometown, and my friends, some of them I have known since elementary school, a lot of them since middle school, all of them since high school at least. And they continue to be my primary circle of friends. And at this point, we're more like sisters, supporting each other through, we've been through it all. All of us have been through it all. And have been there for each other. Right before I came in here, I had two friends send me some texts, encouraging me.
Let me shift our attention to your clinical work and your different experiences that make you not so out of touch with the field of psychology. Let's talk about your teaching. When did you start teaching?
In 2010. Yeah, 2010.
What'd you teach?
What?
Yeah, what? What subjects?
I taught at National. I was teaching Intro to Psychology, History of Psychology, Developmental Psychology, Psychopathology, Social Psychology. Yeah, that.
And then at National, you were there till when?
At National, I was there until about 2018.
Okay, so from 2010 to 2018, are you aware of any complaint made against you by a student?
No.
And then have you worked after that?
I started working at Palomar College. It's a community college in San Diego, North San Diego County. And I've been there from 2016 until the present.
And then what do you teach there?
All of those same classes that I taught at National.
Okay.
And I also teach marriage, family, and intimate relationships there.
How, if at all, has your student-teacher relationships improved your clinical skills?
The relationship between the student and teacher is not unlike that between a clinician and a client. There's something that I'm well aware of, acutely aware of, is the idea of the power differential between those two roles. So that's one thing right off the bat, is that I'm very aware of that differential. I think I've had about 2,000 students over the years. And that's a lot of individuals with a lot of different needs, a lot of different requests, a lot of different issues. And it has required staying on top of the types of skills that are useful clinically.
So let me move things to some more specific clinical issues. Do you work at any agencies at the present time?
I do.
And let's start with one.
Public health, no. Postpartum
Postpartum.
Health Alliance is one of them.
And what do you do there?
I work on the warm line there, which we serve people that are having problems during the perinatal period. Typically it's mothers, but it is often, other family members. And it involves calling, speaking with these people by phone, by text, email, helping them kind of get set up with whatever resources it is that they need, connecting with clinicians, things of that nature.
And how long do the chats last with somebody who's seeking your care?
For at PHA,
Yeah.
it's not as lengthy as at my other organization, but I'd say it's not uncommon to spend probably 30 minutes with somebody. It's not as lengthy as the other one.
Do you have supervision there?
I do.
Have you ever had a complaint against any of your work there?
No.
Okay, and then there's a second place that you provide services to, right?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's RAIN, Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. Their sexual assault hotline, National Sexual Assault Hotline. That's the acronym, NSAH. So I've been working on that, and it's a chat hotline. So I'm chatting with people in real time about issues related to all different types of sexual assault issues.
And do you apply certain psychological techniques in that process?
Yes. Yes.
Like what?
Well, first of all, this is the organization where I will be on chats for an hour and a half, 2 hours or more with an individual. And when they show up, you never know what you're going to get. I've had children. I've been chatting with children. I've been chatting with parents of children. perpetrators, like all of the range that you might suspect. So it requires, first of all, a lot of flexibility. It requires a lot of ability to, what's that called? Decide, risk assessment, to try to figure out what the real problems are here. It requires a lot of kind of psychotherapy type of techniques, listening, reflecting, a lot of reflecting, but it also involves some cognitive behavioral stuff. There's a whole lot of cognitive distortions that come along with sexual assault survivors. The self-blame is just, it's so real and strong and consistent. To just name one of the distortions that happens frequently.
So at RAIN, do you also receive clinical supervision?
I do.
Is it from a licensed mental health professional?
It is.
Okay. Have you ever been given a warning, told of a complaint against you for your
No.
work there?
No,
Has it been the opposite?
it has. I frequently am told by the supervisor as we're working, oh my gosh, I can't believe how you handled that. That was amazing. You did so wonderful. And they have, at the end of the chats, they'll do one of those, like, rate this chat, like, how did we do, that kind of thing. And when it's good news, they will send it to the hotline worker. So the next day I'll get a message about it. And I often get messages from the people I've worked for, saying how much they appreciated the support I gave them.
So a fair amount of actual clinical experience, but let me briefly turn your attention. Do you understand it's a long road ahead, even if this petition is granted?
Yes.
And I think the board needs to hear from you about your feelings, thoughts about the improper behavior you engaged in the past, even though it's not our purpose to relitigate, but
Well,
how do you feel about it?
to be very clear, I am embarrassed, humiliated, ashamed of how I behaved then. I accept full responsibility. I was wrong. That's never been in a question for me. And I am aware that I likely caused harm to TK, which is obviously the worst part of it all, not to mention the harm to my family. That answer the question?
Yeah.
I really truly do accept full responsibility. And I have been spending, since that time, there's not a day that goes by that I do not think about it. It is something that comes to mind, and I'm thinking, this is how I have to do better. I cannot, I have spent the time since then getting myself together to not be that kind of person, first of all, but not that kind of mom, not that kind of wife, not that kind of clinician, hopefully. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time doing that.
So do you understand and accept that you would be obligated to work under the license of a psychologist?
Yes.
If your petition is granted?
Yes,
For at least 5 years?
I would assume.
And you accept that you might have to undergo a psychological evaluation?
I do accept that.
And that you might have to complete college coursework?
I do.
And do you understand you might have to complete continuing education on a wide variety of subjects?
Yes, I would assume all of those things.
And would you accept any and all terms from this board if your petition is granted?
Yes, and I kind of feel like it's similar to my compliance with my medical treatment is the compliance with whatever the board would require for me. It's sort of a part of that same process. If something needs to be done, if people who I trust, that they have the best interests of people, want me to do something, that's what I do.
So in a final statement, is there anything else you want this board to know that might help them make a positive decision in your case?
Well, I just want to say that in 2005, that feels so far away. And I know I was 30, which isn't a child, but looking back, it seems like I was. It feels like I was. And if I could go back and do this over again, of course, I would do it so differently in so many ways. And I think part of that is not just because I learned from that specific incident, but just sort of the other growth that I've done, the maturing, all of that other stuff is plays into that. I mean, it's just embarrassing and avoidable. And I didn't avoid it then, but I would now.
And finally, you do agree you did damage to another human being who was supposed to be in your care.
Yeah. Oh, I want to talk about that. I think in a couple of ways, which I think about this part a lot. First of all, TK was not on a great path. He didn't have a great history. He was not like this. He did not have a great future. And I absolutely did not help that any. He could have and should have received appropriate therapy. And he could have had that from me had I held the line. Or he could have had it from somebody else if I had, transferred him to somebody else. So I feel like I kind of deprived him of that therapy at that moment. But it's my fear that then I have changed his, such that he won't engage in or trust or, get involved in therapy in the future. Those are the two parts of that I really am concerned about the most.
Why do you think you deserve to have this petition granted after all this time?
Well, to be honest, this wasn't I wasn't really thinking about this for a very long time. But lately I've been thinking that this is what I would like to do. I went into psychology because I love psychology. I got my doctorate in it because I love to know all of the things. And that hasn't changed. And I have the education, I have the training, albeit not very current, but I do have those things. And I also, at this point, what has happened is that my children are much more independent than they were. When they were young, I was kind of like, head down, one foot in front of the other, just focused fully on trying to make sure that they were okay. That was the first priority. And now that they don't need that kind of hands-on support as much, I have some time and space to look at this again. So, and I should say my psychiatrist, Dr. Damlucci, was the one who first brought up the idea of me petitioning for relicensure. He was very insistent upon it, and I brushed him off for a couple of years on it, but he was very insistent. And then he got Dr. Diamond in on that push as well. Both of them felt very strongly that this is something that I should do. And I think not just for my kind of mental health, closing the loop, but I think they both think that I have a lot to give to the field. I don't disagree. I'd like to work with trans youth and their families, families that are struggling in the educational system. I have I have things that now I really feel that are personal, which is not what I was doing in 2005.
Thank you. Your Honor, that's the end of my questions. I tender the witness.
All right, Ms. Smith, do you have questions?
I do. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Thompson. Your petition was signed on May 30th, 2024, correct?
That sounds about right. If you say it, so I don't disagree.
Has anything in the petition changed?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
When was it that you started seeing Dr. Kearney as opposed to Dr. DeMonchi?
January, I was looking at this up yesterday, January 31st of 2024 was my first meeting with her.
Was there any reason you didn't note that in your petition? The change in your psychiatrist?
No, I can't think of why. This has been such a big, long, like kind of messy process for so long that it's been kind of in fits and starts. So no, there was no reason why we excluded that.
And your employment at Palomar College, you've been adjunct faculty from 2016 to the present?
Correct.
Is that a full-time position?
No, it's part-time.
And share with us what this part-time schedule is.
I typically teach 3 classes a semester. And each class meets for 6 hours a week. So, and it's typically during the daytime hours, like my kids' school hours, but there are times where it's at night.
And this is in person?
Now it is. It was, online when all of us were online.
Have you taught any ethics courses?
I have not.
You taught any boundaries courses?
No, but let me go back to the ethics ones, just in the context of like my introduction to psychology class, but not, specific to courses to that topic.
Have you incorporated your personal experience into your teaching?
I use examples of things as they relate to the topic from time to time. As I encourage, my way of teaching is I think it's really important to connect what you are learning in the class, in the books, that kind of stuff, with your real life experience. That's, first of all, how we learn the best. And second of all, it tends to be more accurate learning.
And you're volunteering at the Postpartum Health Alliance Warm Line. You're still doing that?
I am.
How often?
I take a shift. It's a warm line, so it's not like there's a specific shifts at a time. We cover a week at a time. And so I do that about once every 3 months. It's not a huge involvement there as far as time. So I'd say about a week every quarter or so.
You use your education for that position?
I do.
And then Rain, you still work there as a crisis counselor?
I do.
And when you talked about chat earlier, is that verbal on a phone?
No. It's chat, like texting chat on, sometimes they'll be on their phones texting or on their phones with an app. And I am on my, my computer.
And how often do you work there?
I work there, I do a 4-hour shift every other week.
In your petition, you had noted that the inmate had a long history of boundary violations with other professionals, correct?
That's true.
Were you aware of that prior to your involvement with him?
I was.
You agree that your boundary violations impacted him negatively?
Very much so. Yes.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
I'm trying to think of very specifically. It was at the prison before I left for maternity leave, which would have been, it was around July 4th, 2005.
When was the last time you spoke with this mother?
I think in the accusation, they say I spoke with, the way that the accusation was worded, it's so fuzzy, it's so long ago, and such a, like, it's just so mushy. I would, if I had to guess, I would say September of 2005. It was right around the time where we got caught, I got in trouble, that sort of thing.
And how would you handle the situation that led to your discipline were it to happen today?
Like I was saying, it's, in hindsight, in retrospect, really quite simple, which was to just continue to ask for help, to seek consultation. My supervisors, they didn't want to get involved in much of anything. And I should have gone elsewhere if that's the case. I just should have been persistent. Yep, that's the main thing.
So is it your belief that you had ineffective supervision when you became involved with this inmate?
Yes, but I want to be clear, I'm not putting it all on that. You know, I made horrifically bad decisions. I'm not blaming them for that exclusively, but it was not, it certainly wasn't helpful.
So when you say you're not blaming it all on the lack of supervision,
Yeah.
what portion are you blaming on the lack of supervision?
Well, the idea that they were not receptive when I asked for help. I mean, I have some memos where when I went to the supervisor, and he told me that I should just go back to the treatment team and get a new treatment plan written. So in order for me to see him more frequent, the patient, more frequently. So this was, even though all of the correction staff were sort of up in arms about that this was inappropriate.
Did you share with your, because I'm a little confused, did you share with your supervisor that you felt your relationship was inappropriate? Or did you share with your supervisor that, that you were concerned about this inmate and he was cutting himself severely?
The latter. But the first part, no, I didn't. It was I was so not of the right mind at that time. He had me extremely convinced that he was going to kill himself, and that I was the only one that could save him, and that if I left him, he was going to kill himself. And I mean, it was really tangled. But I knew that if I went to them and said, this is what's happening, they were going to take him off of my caseload, which was going to have the same result. And I was so terrified that he was going to kill himself.
So would it be fair to say that you were hiding your relationship with the inmate from your supervisor?
Yeah, I was. The difference is now with can I say more?
Yes, go ahead.
The difference is now is that I have the maturity to know that that's not a good reason to not seek outside help. Now I know, pregnant, not diagnosed, medicated me was not on that page. Now I can see that, like I said, quite simple. Just as you all can see it too, it was quite simple. The right thing to do was quite simple, and I didn't do it.
And likewise, when you spoke with your therapist about the situation, once she told you to be careful, you decided to stop seeing her.
No, I continued to see her. I did, at that time, my therapist, not Dr. Diamond, a previous therapist who I was seeing while I was working at Donovan. And I was talking about the patient, and she told me, well, you better be careful. And so I just stopped bringing it up. I continued to have therapy with her. She never asked about it. I never brought it up.
So I know in your counsel's brief, he indicates that he's convinced that this inmate was a chronic psychopath with a history of criminal acts that manipulated you. You don't believe that, do you?
That's a difficult question to ask, to answer, because whatever my answer is, doesn't excuse me. It doesn't take it doesn't take the responsibility off of me. His history, yes, that's consistent. He had a long criminal history, back, pre-pubertal, practically, of violent crime. And he was extremely not mentally healthy. He had there was a lot of, there was a lot of kind of borderline stuff going on. But again, that doesn't excuse me. I should have still been able to do the right thing regardless of that.
Right, and that's a common situation in a prison environment, correct?
I'm not going to say it's not uncommon, but it's not uncommon. I didn't see very many other patients that sort of had that same situation. He had ended up, I was at the highest level of care, and most of the people we worked with were, chronically schizophrenic and that kind of thing. And so he got sent over by the correction staff because they saw the cuts that he had been doing kind of against his will. Hey, you need to go to this. So he didn't really want to be there. So he was a bit atypical in that way.
You indicate in your narrative statement that you believe that you are less at risk for boundary violations than many psychologists, correct?
I do.
And then you also stated that you believe that you present less of a risk than the average psychologist, correct?
I do.
And you agree that it's you, not other psychologists, who are here petitioning the board for reinstatement after surrendering your license because of your boundary violation?
Absolutely.
So why is it necessary for you to compare yourself to the other psychologists in your narrative?
I've written so much for for these things. And I've been processing all of this like intensely since it happened, writing lots of stuff, reading lots of stuff. And I guess it was one way of my trying to reassure. This is not an academic issue for me. I didn't read about this in a book. I lived it. I know what it feels like when something starts to happen that isn't right. I know that. And I think a lot of people don't really know that. I mean, by the very nature that most people don't end up in my position, So go ahead.
Is that why you take the position that you're much more well-equipped to identify and manage future boundary issues than those who've never engaged in boundary violations?
Well, when you read it like that, it does sound like a little bit of a overstatement in those words. But I don't disagree with the general idea of it. But as you say those words, that sounds a little embarrassing to put it so strongly.
Well, you did state, I think that I am much more well-equipped to identify and manage future potential boundary issues than those who have never been through what I've been through.
Like I said, I don't disagree with the idea of it. After hearing your take on it, I might have written that a bit differently.
And that other mental health professionals that tell you they would never do what you did? You believe that's dangerously egocentric?
Yes, I do.
And those professionals are at serious risk?
I was one of those professionals, and yeah, I do think that. And I think that the people that study boundary violations and sexual boundary violations, that's what they find as well, is that when people are of well, that could never happen to me, never, ever, that those people are kind of not really in touch with themselves.
Why is that significant with respect to your reinstatement?
Because I have gotten that, I don't know if I want to call it a cognitive distortion, but that way of thinking is not there. I know that if one is not careful, is not paying attention, is not in touch with their own needs and their own boundaries and their own everything, that's a risk.
You also state in your narrative, I have invested a lot in my education. It feels like throwing the baby out with the bathwater to say my education isn't worth using because of something I did 20 years ago. I mean, you use your education for your current job, correct?
I do.
And your volunteer position?
Yes.
So what did you mean by that?
Well, I would love to get back into full-time clinical work now that I have time to have a clinical position. Teaching has been a really great bridge for me. And I think I'm very good at teaching. I like teaching, but I would really like to get a full-time type of position.
And what patient population do you intend to serve should your license be reinstated?
But I've thought about this a lot, and I think I mentioned it earlier. I really am interested in working with trans youth and their families. And like I've seen kind of the idea that there's not a whole lot of professionals that do such a thing, as I've tried to get help for my child. And also with the education system, because that is it's an incredibly stressful, institution to kind of navigate. So those are the things I have in mind.
You read your attorney's book, Multiple Relationships and Conflict of Interest for Mental Health Professionals, a Conservative Psycholegal Approach, is that right?
I did, but I must tell you, go ahead.
Well, without invading the attorney-client privilege, I don't want to know what you discussed with your attorney.
But I must say that it's been quite some time since I read that book, and I brought about 7 such books with me. So it was one of many.
Why did you read it?
Well, I read everything that I could get my hands on the topic. When I've done something like that, I am searching for, okay, why? And how to not do that.
What did you learn from that book?
Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, so I've done a lot of readings by Glenn Gabbard, who's a doctor who talks a lot about boundary violations. A lot of what he writes kind of speaks to me. It resonates with me. And Dr. Ebert, there's a little bit of a like different views in that people like Dr. Gabbard are pretty fierce about no boundary crossings. And Dr. Ebert is more of the idea that there are boundary crossings that don't do harm, which I think is kind of generally assumed, I think, versus violations. So that was one thing that I got from that. Sorry.
You provided multiple character letters.
Yes,
Did you obtain those yourself?
I did.
And none of those letters mentioned why the authors were preparing the letters, other than your psychiatrist and psychologist. Why is that?
I think they know about it, but I think what I told them was that I just needed them to write a letter about, what kind of person they think I am. And I think that I probably didn't go down this angle of addressing kind of a licensure issue, because that's not their field or area of expertise. I think that's what I was probably thinking of.
So Shelby Barnes with Rain
Mhm.
is aware of your disciplinary issues with the board?
I don't believe that she is, and also the PHA person.
Why aren't they aware? Why didn't you share it with them?
It's not a licensed position. So, I mean, obviously, if they had asked if it had been on the application or anything through that process, they know that I have my PhD in clinical psychology, but they don't. Even the licensed supervisors ask, well, why don't you have your license?
And then the Palomar College memo you provided, are your superiors at Palomar College aware of your disciplinary issues?
I don't know what memo you're referring to.
It is at page A057.
Is this the same binder?
It's in there, A057, if you'd like to take a look at it.
Let's go to,
I don't think I got something.
That's your Bates stamp number.
Yes.
that's part of Exhibit 1.
We got it, we're here. Oh, I see it, I see it. This was for my serving on a committee about access and accessibility and inclusion. So this person isn't like my direct supervisor, but no.
So was this memorandum obtained for purposes of this disciplinary?
I asked if they could write a letter confirming my participation. That was my prompt to them.
And have you shared with anyone of your supervisors at Palomar College your discipline before the board?
I'm trying to think if there was a one-off, like a coworker who I may have talked about it with, but I don't think so.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
May I add along those lines that I did, sorry.
Attorney Kness.
Sorry. I was going to talk about national.
Okay, so now the board members have the opportunity to ask questions if they wish. So I'll turn it to President Tate first.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. I know this is difficult.
Thank you.
So I just want to reiterate, I think you said it, but I just want to make sure it's clear. If this petition is granted, your focus is going to be on trans youth and families?
Yes, yes.
And also, I just want to make sure I understand, we have the letter from Dr. Diamond and Dr.
Mm,
Damluji,
Yes, that's how you say it.
but we do not have a letter of support from Dr. Kerner. Can you explain why, please?
I can, in fact. She also is super insistent that this is the right thing for me to be doing. I just got a letter from her. This whole thing has been a very long time in the coming and very just not really real because we started this process like a couple of years ago. And even before that, there was all those years, even then. Anyways, so it's been sort of is this really going to happen? I can't believe this is going to happen. Is this actually going to happen? I asked her for a letter about a month ago. She wrote me a letter. It's my understanding that that was too late to include it in the materials here, but I do have a letter from her. And I don't have it printed out here, but I could, if there was such a way, I could provide that to you if I could print something out here.
Thank you for letting me know.
Okay.
Also, all the letters are from 2023.
That's
Is there,
insane.
so no letters of support from 2024
It-
and 2025? Sounds like there is a possible letter, but we don't have it in our packet.
Yes.
Okay.
This has been a really long process and I feel like I'm not like I'm not one of those like chomping at the bit. Oh my gosh, like I'm gonna reapply. It's just been a really long time. And so I can't remember how it happened. I do know that the board, the processing of my petition, there was some sort of hang up there for a couple of months. Life happens. It's just been I have not been really, really timely pushing this. I could get new letters. I considered it. Dr. Ebert had cancer, so he was out of commission for a good chunk of time with that. So it's just been kind of a leisurely stroll. We're going to get this done when we can get this done. Does that make sense? Do you follow me?
I hear you.
Okay.
No further questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do other board members have questions? All right, Dr. Masuga.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Dr. Thompson.
Hi.
So, in your understanding, what did you do wrong that led to your surrender of your license? You mentioned that you didn't provide proper therapy, but aside from that,
Like the specific events as they were reported along the lines of how they were reported in the accusation or clinically?
I mean, you mentioned that if you were to do it, that you would do it differently.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to get a sense of your understanding of what led to the surrender of your license and about you said that you've been thinking about it for a long time, and what are some of the things that you thought were probably that a psychologist shouldn't have done A, B, and C
Yes.
as part of that?
Yes. Let me tell you sort of the context of it, which was that I was off of the antidepressants that I had been taking for the first time, and I was newly pregnant. So that was just sort of the in the base of things. Again, none of these excuse the behavior, just to be extremely clear. I know that. But that was sort of the point that was at the base of it. And as I was looking at becoming a mom, I was so concerned about TK, um, uh, inappropriately so. He'd had a horrible childhood. I didn't want to be that kind of mom. He had a child. TK's father had died when he was very young. And so I was really afraid that his child was going to end up the same way. And I know all of these are not good enough reasons, but I was not stable. I wasn't thinking clearly, but those were the thoughts I was having. And he was really insistent that I was the only one that could help him. And that if I didn't, that was basically it. Like he was going to kill himself, he was going to die. I was his last ditch, last possible, helper for that. So what I did wrong was there were so many red flags all along the way. When we first started, he was kind of going back and forth, like, am I going to stay in this? Like I said, he was in the higher level treatment yard. Well, I'm going to stay here or am I going to go? And I should have at that moment been like, if you're not committed, then this is not the right place for you. And if it should happen again, that would be a red flag that there might be some perhaps manipulation going on that I don't want to even get involved in at all. Do you know what I mean? To recognize that as a potential problem right up front, which is not what I did. And so then it continued from there. When things started to get sticky, when I started to think about him so much, when I started to kind of worry and wonder, before things got really inappropriate, that's when I should have asked for help. And not only asked for help, in hindsight, if I were to do it again, I would have sought help and referred him out right then. I had fully lost touch with the idea that this was a therapeutic relationship. It was not reasonable. It was borderline delusional. But I was so deep into it that I couldn't see that. And I know that. Which is why I've been trying to get stable ever since, and why I have been stable for so long. I should have, at every point of the way, there was an option, a opportunity for me to say, look, I need some help with this, or this is not the right match for us, for him, for me. Yeah, there was a million steps along the way that I just plowed right through without consulting. It was just so naive, in addition to all of the whatever kind of instability, just the idea that I am that I would be the only one for someone, which of course is a ridiculous thought. In hindsight, it's absurd. But that's what I thought. To believe that I thought that everybody was really fixable, and I was trying to do that. I was really trying to help him, and I kept thinking I can pull this back. I can roll this back, which of course I couldn't. I didn't. But it had been so twisted. My concept of what was the appropriate way to do therapy versus what the kind of relationship we were having. It was so it got so twisted. It appealed to my kind of probably narcissistic need to believe, oh, really, I'm that special. I could do this, which, like I said, I can't. I know that now for sure. And if I were to have any of these thoughts, I know that that's the moment. I would like to think that I would not have those thoughts ever again. But if I were to, I know that those are like the red flag behaviors that a person might have. As I've read in books about, you know, the idea of red flags behaviors.
Thank you, but specifically, can you tell me what ethical violations did you cross?
You mean like the ones that were in the accusation about this sexual misconduct, or the?
During that time, what were the ethical? I'm just trying to get a sense of your understanding about ethical violations and boundaries as a psychologist.
Well, I mean, well, like what the accusation said, for sure, this was sexual misconduct. There was not sexual contact. I didn't ever even shake his hand, because that was just, it's so silly to say this. That was my boundary with all of my patients. We never even touched, we never shook hands or anything like that. There was no physical contact, but for sure, that was still sexual misconduct. Do you want me to tell you specifically which behaviors were that, or?
Just like a general sense, is it right for you to contact the family, the inmate's mother? Is it like whatever you feel like you think are like ethical violations that you committed during that time that would make the board feel like you've learned from all of those? You know now the ethical boundaries of what a psychologist should be doing to give us a sense of your future behavior if you were to be granted your license.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea of dual relationships, the whole idea of not doing harm, for sure, that those ethic principles, not principles, I can't think of the word for it right now, but those 3.04, 3.05, those for sure are all over all of this. All of my inappropriate talk, the photos, all of those things fall under this idea of not doing harm, about not having multiple relationships, for sure. The same could be said, I suppose, about contacting his mother. Not only that, and I think the dishonest acts part of the accusation had to do with the fact that I used his mom's address as the return address, and I don't disagree with that. That was dishonest. I should not have done any of this. So I feel like there's the sexual misconduct part, there's the not doing harm, there's the not having multiple relationships, not being dishonest. Is that more along the line of?
Yeah, thanks for your honest answers. One of the things that you mentioned is if granted your license, you would like to work with the transgender population. I'm just trying to understand how you would plan to maintain proper boundaries when working with transgender youth, having your own close personal experience with your child.
I don't think that excessive self-disclosure belongs in therapy, just to put that right out front. And quite honestly, I don't think I can say that it's never appropriate to disclose some things. I don't know if this transgender, like my transgender child thing would fall under that. I would need to think on that a lot more. But I think that maintaining boundaries is maintaining boundaries all the same. And I think that I'm very aware of what it feels like when lines start getting blurred. And that's the time to ask for some help managing, trying to figure out what the proper steps are, what the options are, those kinds of things. So I think it's a combination of really thinking hard about self-disclosure and why, and seeking consultation all along the way. I don't think that supervision is, I know that it would be coming, and I don't disagree with it, because I think that, it's always useful, just like I think everybody should probably be in therapy. I think that it is useful to have consultation at hand regularly. So that's the sort of thing that I'd be looking at, being aware of it and talking about it when I have any like idea that maybe I need to get some clarity on this. Oh, does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. So I was looking at the continuing education courses that you took, and it seems like you took ethics and boundary issues CE course last year for 5 hours.
Several of them, and I actually, in anticipation, like coming up to this, I just redid one of those. It's a 6-hour one by Pam Harmel. I just redid, but it's not for CE credit, but.
Is there anything there that you've
I knew I should have brought this.
that you've learned and that would apply for your future work specific? I'm thinking more about, like, do you have like a specific plan in place in terms of when these red flags are coming up, and that's something more tangible?
Oh God, there's a word for it. Yes. First of all, one of the things that I really took home from all of the ethics courses that I took had to do with on the front end was about taking care of oneself. Like what were the ways to manage stress, and sort of through that I realized that saying no to whatever it is something that's important to me, that helps keep me more solid. So that was one thing that I took. I can't remember which course that was. Another one was talking about a boundary safety plan. The term red flag behavior, I got that from one of these courses. And so in thinking about and also talking about the, the 5-step decision model about ethical decisions. I think that's what it's called. The idea of having a written plan about what steps would be taken if there was a concern, to be worked out with the supervisor. But it would basically involve me coming up with some of those red flag behaviors. What would I notice? And actually, as I'm saying this, also with Dr. Diamond, to work on what is it that could be like, we need to look at this. That would be the first step. Then the second step would be, okay, so what will I do when if I recognize those anywhere, which would be to immediately seek consultation, full and honest consultation, which in this case would be supervision, and then to talk with that person about how to proceed from there. What would be the proper steps, depending on the situation. Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, when was the last time you had like a psych evaluation?
Let me think. I don't think I ever have, but I'm trying to think that I perhaps may have when I surrendered my license. Not at the board's request, but at my attorney's advisement. But I'm not sure about that. If I had to pick an answer, I'd say I don't think I've ever had one.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Cervantes, any questions?
Dr. Harpsheets.
Dr. Sheets?
Okay. Okay, I have a few questions. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Sharing
you.
your
Thank you for having me.
Oh, is my microphone on? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. You were asked about your stability, and you talked about support systems, sort of external kinds of things. Could you share with us what you believe internally represents your stability?
I think that I'm a lot more self-aware than I have been in the past. I am in tune with, am I anxious? How does my body feel? Am I in pain? Am I hungry? Because I know all of those things play a role in, not being our best, So I'm always kind of checking in with myself to see how I feel. And I think it may be as a result of what I did at Donovan with TK. I feel like I suspect problems in places where they are not, perhaps. Like I'm really on top of is any kind of interaction I have. I don't think I ever would have thought to question interactions like I do now. So I'm really on top of checking in with myself.
I get it. What do you think, if you think back when Dr. Kasuga was asking you about what had happened, what do you think you needed? I mean, you had TK who's telling you what he needed from you, but what did you need at the time?
I think I always feel like we were kind of a perfect storm. His needs, my needs, unfortunately, like that was a bad mix for us. And because my needs were not under control. His were not either, but that was not my job or my responsibility, right? I think there were so many things. I think part of it was, that whole idea of becoming a mom and the kind of the psychological turmoil I was in about becoming a mom. I think that was part of it. I also, it does feel good to have somebody tell you that they need you and you can fix everything, And I was in a place apparently where that was going to be something that would kind of pull me in, suck me into the situation. So being told that it just feels really embarrassing to be told you're attractive, that somebody loves you. Like, honestly, if you heard of that outside of a relationship, like a clinical relationship, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds great. Like that's what people like to hear. And of course it was completely inappropriate, but I was not on solid footing and I was not able to kind of resist that allure. I was also, I'm trying to think of, there were so many layers and I've been thinking about it for so long. And I really want to get it right. There's two more major points. Also, I had not been very mentally healthy. And I'd been in treatment for depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, like a kind of like a whole like alphabet soup sort of thing. and was never really good. I was never really okay. And I had said something about how I thought everybody was fixable. And I think part of it was that for me to acknowledge that somebody was not fixable, that means I'm not fixable. And that was something that I just couldn't, you know, I just couldn't. I didn't, but I didn't know if that's what I was thinking. In hindsight, obviously, this is what was happening inside me. So that's sort of the me part of it. The other part of it was the institution. Prison sucks. That's not professional. It's just not a great place. You cannot go to a place where humans keep other humans in cages and be like, oh, everything's fine. And in particular, where I was, there was so much abuse going on, so much abuse between the inmates, the guards on the inmates, like arranging sexual assault. It was just such a horrible, nasty place to be. And nobody seemed to care. I felt like it was in like bizarro world. I now realize you kind of have to have that attitude in order to not get sucked in. But I was so resentful towards the system, and they're denying everybody sort of love or attention or whatever it is, and then here, this is an opportunity for me to kind of say, you know what? You might not want any of that to happen, but here it is. I hated the prison so much. I never intended to go back. When I left on maternity leave in July of 2005, 100%, I was waiting until I'd had my 6 weeks of maternity leave, and I was going to put in my 2 weeks notice. Or maybe the 4 weeks of maternity leave, then 2 weeks notice. I was not going back. I thought I wanted to work in prison. I did not. That was not the right place for me.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
You mentioned boundary crossings versus boundary violations, and I don't think you mentioned if you thought boundary crossings were acceptable, but assuming that you do, can you give an example of a boundary crossing that you might feel would be okay? And where, if you were engaging in that crossing, you think if you hit that slippery slope where it started to move into boundary violation territory?
Let me think for just a moment. The first thing that came to mind as you were saying that was the idea of text messaging, perhaps giving a client your number and then texting. I don't think that that's necessarily, I do think that's a bit of a boundary crossing because that's not typically how we manage contact. But I do think it's okay. I do think it can become wrong if we are exchanging texts at, 11 o'clock at night or frequently or, that kind of thing. That is definitely headed towards a slippery slope of perhaps some kind of inappropriate relationship, some multiple relationship.
So in practice these days, clients do text.
Yes.
For appointments.
Yes.
And we do try to avoid clinical text, but
yes.
So let's say that you were in a practice and you were you had given your cell phone number to text for appointments, and now a client is texting you at 9 o'clock at night. And so what would you do? How would you handle it?
Well, I was looking at sort of the technology side of things that weren't around so much. And I'd read about the idea of having in the initial paperwork, kind of having guidelines about what is expected about contact like that. Specifically, I'd been looking at social media situations and to explicitly say, that I do not accept friend requests. I have as much as I can, and I don't, it's not able to send me a friend request intentionally. So the idea of setting up some boundaries there with my students, I have a Google Voice number that I give out because I don't have an office number. So I give that out and I tell them, this is my Google Voice message. You can reach me, between these hours. And then I turn it off. The notifications are off. You're not going to reach me. And I will return the call as soon as I can, then, the next day or whatever.
What would you say to a client who did text you at 9 p.m.? Would you return the text? If not, I mean, how would you handle this with a clinical client?
I feel like this answer might seem too, I don't know, obvious, or perhaps like I'm pandering, but honestly, I would reach out for some consultation on that, because that's not my experience. I don't have much experience with that. And I can imagine what kind of text it might be, if it's critical, if it's like, I would imagine that if it was something that was critical, it would make sense to respond if there was some sort of serious need. But I would seek help. Like I said, I question everything. I don't, and especially this, where I'm like, this technology thing, and I've been reading about it, and so that's what I would do. In fact, I think that's a perfect example of it, and I hope that doesn't sound like it's not the truth, because it is.
Okay. Thank you. I have just one more question. Now, you have seen many, many students, and you've also encountered people through your work at RAIN and the Warm Line. And I'm going to assume, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that there are people who have seem to want more from you. They've come in and told you a story, and they're looking to you for more in some way. And in a way, that's what TK was doing.
Yes.
Wanting more. And so when you have run into that, how have you dealt with those situations? How have you set boundaries?
Well, I can think of one example right off the top of my head. Was national, the classes were nights and weekends. And one night a student asked me for a ride home. And I just about like all of my hackles went up, like, oh no, this is not gonna fly here. I guess, and I said to him, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And that was it. And I was so like, wow, like I can say that and it will happen. It was sort of like a good experience of that. I don't have very many experiences like that outside of it, because I set things up pretty structured in my courses. My syllabus is like 15 pages long, laying out kind of how things work. I have office hours. That's when you see me. I have Zoom office hours. That's when you see me. And of course, I'm available if to set something else up, if that's not going to work for you. But I guess what I'm doing is I just thought of another example. I guess what I'm doing is I set things up on the front end to really set boundaries. The example I had is this, is that people are always asking for, you have extra credit, like what can I do? People always want to do something that's special for them. And that may not sound like the biggest boundary violation in the world, but I think it is inappropriate to allow some people to do something that other people don't do. So I do not do, period. I do not do extra credit. I set up the way my quizzes work very, with good directions, so that I think I wrote it somewhere in one of the things I wrote, I don't have to deal with the dead grandma situation, which is to say that when it comes to why they didn't come to class, people have have dead grandmas much more frequently for my 8 a.m. class than they do for my noon class. You see what I'm saying? So I was set up, but I don't grade on attendance because who am I to judge somebody's? So this is sort of my way of kind of having a uniform way of dealing with people so that people can't request past what I've designated is appropriate. And if they do, I can reflect back. So sorry, no, I said it here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Being candid.
All right. Ms. Friscotti, any questions?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Thompson.
Hi.
So my question is, you're talking about you had some mental health issues
Yes.
during that time. And I was just wondering, was TK your only client at that time, or did you have other clients, and were any boundaries crossed with those clients as well?
He was not my only client. I think on our caseloads, we had about 20 people. And what that was supposed to consist of was seeing them for a half an hour a week. And in individual, maybe it was an hour, but one time a week, individual therapy. And then we were doing lots and lots of groups. So I did have other clients. And I would say well, absolutely nothing was, there were no boundary violations for sure with anybody. As far as boundary crossings, I'm trying to think of perhaps what might have been an example. You know what, even that, now that I'm saying this out loud, it's very strange when people would ask me for a special favor. Hey, can you let me use your phone? Can you hook me up with this like note from the doctor or things like that? No, I can't. So I was apparently able to, maintain boundaries in some cases.
Okay. So one more question then. So with him in particular, did things start out more formal, traditional, or were there red flags from the very beginning? Was there?
I want to say I think that there were red flags from the very beginning. And, some of that tapping into what I was talking about, this being made to feel special. And he's very charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
He garners the attention of everyone. The officers disliked him immensely because they felt like he was always like working the system. And I just thought he was really interesting, and so somebody like that paying attention to you in certain ways, just, and so in the beginning, it was that sort of thing, just kind of like not a romantic sexual sort of thing at first. But then of course it devolved into that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Nystrom?
Dr. Thompson, thank you for being here. I don't have any questions. I think everything's been answered.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are those all of the board's questions? Yes. All right, then, Mr. Ebert, do you have any redirect questions?
One moment, Your Honor. Well, other than the fact that my ego is shattered, that she learned nothing from reading my book.
I read a lot of books.
I'm not sure where to go. You were asked about a psychological evaluation.
Yes.
Do you fully expect you should be required to undergo a psychological evaluation if your petition is granted?
I have to say the economic idea of that, I'm not in love with, but I realize, and I don't know if I said this part, I would welcome the idea of if I could open myself up and have you all truly see what's going on with me, I would love that opportunity. Likewise, if an evaluation were to if the person were to see, actually, no, I don't think she's appropriate. Well, then that's good for me to know too. You know, I don't want to, if I didn't think could do this, I would not be pursuing this. And an evaluation, like I said, financially don't love, but whatever the results are, I'm all in on that, either way.
And just to clarify, the letter from Dr. Kearney, was that your fault not filing it or mine?
Yours, I did email it to you.
You did. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
No other questions?
Okay, then that completes your testimony. Does petitioner have any other evidence she wishes to present?
No, Your Honor, we presented it all.
All right, and you mentioned a couple times a brief. You're referring to the brief that was attached to the petition,
That's correct, Your Honor.
which is part of Exhibit 1?
It's part of Exhibit 1.
Okay, thank
I
you.
guess we should strike it since she didn't rely on his book like the brief states.
Oh my
Well,
God.
yeah.
That's
Like
not-
I'm gonna take that as
Saying
not
I
a
didn't
formal
rely
motion
on
to
it.
strike it. All right.
Way to
So
go.
does the Attorney General have any other evidence
No, Your
wish to
Honor.
present? Right, then that completes the evidence. And the board is ready to hear closing arguments. If either or both sides wishes to make them, the procedure will be, Mr. Ebert, you may start, and then or we'll hear from Ms. Smith, and then if you want to have the final word on petitioner's behalf, you may have it in rebuttal. So right now, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I hope the board will recognize and remember the things that I set forth in the very beginning, because it's not the purpose of this proceeding to relitigate the past. That was 19 years ago. It is the purpose of this board to protect the public and to ensure that Dr. Thompson is going to be safe. And she's demonstrated that. Like, very few people stay with therapy for 15 years going weekly. Very few people stay with psychiatric care as she has since 2011, never being non-compliant, never with psychotropic medication. And we all know that there are significant side effects with psychotropic drugs, yet she's hung in there and will hang in there. You've heard some testimony, at least, that her current psychiatrist is supportive of her petition for reinstatement, and that it falls on me that that recent letter was not submitted. And yet, we can certainly submit that if that's something that the board requires in order to make an appropriate decision. She's ready now. And she's ready with extensive terms and conditions that may even be considered onerous. She's got clinical practice, the most you could possibly do under the circumstances, really. And so I think you heard from your questions, from the questions of counsel for the board. She's very open. She's very honest. She is thoughtful and insightful. And that's kind of what you want in a licensed psychologist. She has a plan to deal with boundary violations. She's prepared herself by reading a number of ethics books on boundary violations. She talked about the 5-step red flag program, which I think is really, really important. And to clarify, her comments in her petition about how she is ready and maybe more ready than a number of other licensed psychologists, it's because she has lived this. She has lived a life for 19 years of rehabilitation, of insight, of tackling the tough issues of her personality, of her mental illness, and of her professional endeavors. And as such, she's ready. Her self-awareness alone is a positive indicator. The fact that she has tuned herself to become anxious to any potential boundary violation is critically important. The fact that she has gone out of her way to provide herself with assistance at every level, has a supportive husband, has a supportive family, has a mother who's involved in her life, has family who's involved in her life, an incredible support system. She has created a structure in her life to be an ethical, competent psychologist. And so I ask you grant this petition. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. The board's highest priority in exercising its licensing and disciplinary functions is public protection. Petitioner bears the burden of proof by clear and convincing evidence of establishing that she has rehabilitated herself and that she's entitled to have her certificate restored. In order to meet that burden, she must show that she's no longer deserving of the adverse character judgment associated with the discipline imposed against her certificate. The board must consider the nature and severity of petitioner's acts, the time that has elapsed, and specific activities showing rehabilitation. We've had the opportunity to hear from petitioner here today. Compare her testimony today with the statements that she had made in her petition. She has not fully accepted responsibility for wrongdoing, which she was disciplined. And the excuses regarding the lack of supervision and placing blame on the inmate throughout her petition is concerning. The best proof that she's not rehabilitated comes from her petition. Would also ask that you look at the reference letters that she provided. She presented 11 letters and 1 memo from various individuals attesting to her good character. Only her psychiatrist and her psychologist addressed her discipline. Many of them are not signed, not under penalty of perjury. There's no mention of what the letter is going to be used for, undated. And even her psychologist, Dr. Diamond, she has brackets throughout the letter with information that needs to be added. I would request that these letters be given little weight, if any. Mental health patients, especially those in marginalized communities, are the most vulnerable and fragile patients. She indicates that she wants to take care of Medi-Cal patients and transgender patients. Given her lack of insight, she shouldn't be reinstated to take care of those patients. The harm to the public health, safety, and welfare, and to public confidence in the psychology profession far outweighs her interest in working with the transgender young people community and Medi-Cal patients. And while she should be commended for addressing her mental health issues and continuing with treatment, which is very important, the evidence has shown that she's not fully accepted responsibility for her misconduct and therefore is not yet rehabilitated. She does not yet have the tools to practice safely, and there's an absence of unique or extraordinary circumstances that warrant the petitionary relief here. It's the people's position that petitioner does not meet her burden of proof to support reinstatement of her license, and denying her petition is necessary for protection of the public. In the event that the board considers granting the position, the people would ask that the board provide great oversight of her practice and guidance by the board by placing her on a period of probation with very specific terms and conditions to protect the public. She has not practiced as a licensed psychologist since January of 2007. She should, of course, undergo a psychological evaluation and psychological testing if deemed necessary. She would need to have a practice monitor, psychotherapy, an examination for professional practice, and the California Psychology Law and Ethics examination. And although counsel pointed out that extensive terms and conditions would be onerous, extensive terms and conditions would absolutely be necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Ebert, and your rebuttal?
Sure, just to be clear. Apparently, we're at two different hearings because I heard Dr. Thompson take complete responsibility for her behavior 19 years ago and demonstrated a pattern over 19 years of incredible levels of rehabilitation that we all know, anyone on this board knows, to stick with therapy that long, to stick with medication that long is virtually unheard of. And I use the word onerous because I expect that if you grant this petition, she is going to be required to have several years of probation with mandatory supervision, with a practice monitor. And we threw out the issue of a psychological examination. Dr. Thompson said she would accept that. If you want to know about defensiveness, look at her MMPI, her MCMI-4, or her PAI after there's been a psychological evaluation. Look at the validity scales. I mean, there are 10 validity scales now on the MMPI-3. There are 4 on the MCMI, or sorry, 3 on the MCMI-4, 4 on the PAI. Like, those things tell you whether the person is defensive or not, or has accepted responsibility for a behavior. The chips fall where they may, meaning that whatever psychological exam results happens, it is the result. I mean, maybe we believe it's going to be positive, maybe not. And we accept that. We accept terms and conditions. And if this isn't rehabilitation, then I don't know what is. And yes, I'm representing her. But I go back to licensing issues, back to the 1980s. And having taught law and ethics, like I want my students to have been as open, honest, direct. And even if there are explanations regarding the unique facts and circumstances of her interactions with TK, that's not defensiveness. That's not a lack of responsibility. That's explaining this complex situation. She fully admitted that she got drawn in, she committed boundary violations, and that she shouldn't have done so. And she's told you about a plan of action that she has in her life and in her support system. So I think we're way beyond clear and convincing evidence to grant this petition. And we pray the board will do the right thing and grant it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. That will complete the hearing. Close the record on the petition hearing. The board will deliberate at a later point in closed session and issue a written decision on the petition as provided by law. Thank you to the court reporter who's been transcribing the whole petition hearing. That will conclude your duties, and we appreciate your help. And with that, I'll turn it back to President Tate.
Thanks, Judge.
The board will now meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11126C3 to discuss disciplinary matters, including petitions for reinstatement, modification, early termination, proposed decisions, stipulations, and remands. When we finish closed session today, we'll be coming back into open session and begin the next petition hearing it's scheduled for 1 p.m. Do we need a full hour for staff? Okay, 45 minutes. Yes, we'll be back at 1 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
About the brief delay. Ms. Whitney, can you please call the roll?
Tate,
Here.
Rogers, Kasuga,
Here.
Cervantes,
Here.
Hardsheets,
Here.
Boo, Nystrom,
Here.
Scate.
Here.
Thank you. Quorum is established.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will begin a petition hearing, and I will hand over the microphone to Judge Heller. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Thomas Heller. I'm an administrative law judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings. We have a court reporter taking down everything that's being said in this petition hearing. It's a petition for reinstatement of, excuse me, Roberto J. Velasquez, PhD. Could I get appearances, please, of both sides, meaning state your name for the court reporter, starting with the petitioner.
Roberto Velasquez.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor and board members. Rebecca Smith, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the Attorney General's Office and the people of the state of California.
Good afternoon. This has a case number, looking for it here. One moment. I have an Office of Administrative Hearings case number for it, and I'll just give that is 2025-100-335, and the board has a case number assigned to this of 600-2023-000773. So I'm presiding over the petition hearing for the board, and what that's going to involve, sir, you do not have an attorney, as I understand it?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so the petition proceeding will go as follows. Done the introductions, and then each side has the opportunity to make an opening statement if they wish, summarizing what they believe the evidence is going to show and what they think the proper outcome is and what the relief is that you're requesting, which is, I understand, is reinstatement of your license. Then I'm going to be receiving the evidence related to the petition for the board. There are some documents that Ms. Smith has uploaded into an electronic case management system. I see you have a binder in front of you as well. So we'll receive that evidence and see if there are any objections to it. And then we'll hear from each side with regards to other evidence. That is, if you wish to testify on your own behalf, you can do that. If you wish to call other witnesses to testify for you, you can do that too. Then Ms. Smith will have the opportunity to ask you questions or any other witness questions. And also the board, if they have questions, they can ask them of you. And then at the end of the petition hearing, each side will have the opportunity to make a closing statement summarizing what they believe the evidence has shown and what the proper outcome is on the petition. So that's the basic framework of what we're doing here this afternoon. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I understand the process.
All right, very well. So before I get to the documents, I know there are quite a number of them here. I want to hear if you wish to make, sir, an opening statement.
Yes, in fact, I do have a statement here, which I would like to read, and I do have copies for the board members.
We'll inquire of the board whether they need it in writing, but they'd like to hear from you, yes. So why don't you go ahead with your opening statement, sir?
Okay. Your Honor, before I begin, can I preface it by reading something from the disciplinary guidelines?
However you wish to proceed with your opening statement is fine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rehabilitation is evaluated according to an internal subjective measure of attitude, that is state of mind, and an external objective measure of conduct, state of facts. The state of mind demonstrating rehabilitation is one that has a mature, measured appreciation of the gravity of the misconduct and remorse for the harm caused. Petitioner must take responsibility for the misconduct and show an appreciation for why it is wrong. Petitioner must also show a demonstrated course of conduct that convinces and assures the board that the public would be safe if the petitioner is permitted to be sentenced to practice psychology. Petitioner must show a track record of reliable, responsible, and consistently appropriate conduct. I'll proceed now to my statement. Good afternoon. My name is Roberto Velasquez, and I want to thank the California Board of Psychology, the California Attorney General, and the Administrative Law Judge, Your Honor, for allowing me to meet before you and offer my reasons why I believe that I am ready to return to the practice of psychology as a licensed psychologist. In my presentation today, I will offer a substantial amount of evidence of rehabilitation, which began on April 13th, 2012, the day of my arrest, with my full cooperation with federal investigators, and which has continued to this day. That is my rehabilitation and will continue for the rest of my life. I also want to thank you for allowing me to meet with you here in Riverside, California, which is and always will be my hometown. I was born and raised in Riverside and grew up in a predominantly Chicano Mexican American community, Casablanca. I am very proud to say that my family has been in Casablanca since the early 1900s, when my father immigrated from Mexico to the United States. In this community, I learned many lessons about life, including doing the right thing in a place that experienced much violence, gang involvement, and substance abuse during my formative years. I also learned about the importance of obtaining an education from observing the challenges and hardships that farm workers experienced, as my father was a contractor for workers in the grape industry in Central California for many years. In Casablanca, I learned about morality, respect for others' dignity, and the importance of being a good and honest citizen. This learning occurred through my involvement in St. Anthony's Catholic Church as an altar boy for many years, as a Boy Scout at the Casablanca Home of Neighborly Service, and involvement as a director of the Casablanca Youth Project, which I directed after I completed my master's degree, which assisted youth, at-risk youth. I attended Casablanca Elementary School in my community during the time of desegregation and learned a lot about respecting, honoring, and embracing diverse cultures, which I continue to do today. I completed public education at Arlington High School and graduated as president of the class of 1975. I moved on to Riverside Community College and then graduated from the University of California, Riverside, which was a life-affirming experience for a first-generation college student. As a result, I have obtained my doctorate and 2 master's degrees and will be applying for a 3rd master's degree in public health in the near future. Finally, I want to thank my parents for being kind, loving, responsible, and caring parents. Being the oldest of 5 children, they always had high expectations for me, including offering leadership to my siblings once they passed on. They also taught me to follow the 10 Commandments and to always do the right thing. They are here with me in spirit. I'll move on next to current and past petitions, and I'll do a quick summary. Please note that this is my 3rd petition for reinstatement of my license, with previous applications in 2018 and 2020. I submitted my last application to the Board of Psychology Investigation Unit on March 22nd, 2024, with 3 large methodically organized binders with evidence of my rehabilitation, including many letters of support from friends and colleagues who have known me for many years and who can attest to my rehabilitation efforts and my character at this time. Since that time, I also have submitted 2 additional binders which document my rehabilitation efforts to today. These 5 volumes, 1 through 5, offer a total of 94 exhibits that reflect many aspects of my personal and professional rehabilitation since late 2012. In the last binder, binder number 5, I have included as an Exhibit 1 a letter that documents my ongoing participation in psychotherapy with Dr. Margaret Ronstadt, who is a licensed psychologist in the state of Arizona. Her letter strongly supports my petition for reinstatement. It is important to note that all the exhibits are an open and transparent window into my life, from both personal and professional, and also reflect my work ethic as a practitioner, researcher, and educator since 1992, when I was originally licensed. Admittedly, my personal problems began at or about 2010 and proceeded through April 13, 2012, which led to the commission of my crimes. I have included the decisions made at previous board meetings, with the first decision in binder number 4, Exhibit A, and the second decision in binder number 1, Exhibit 2. While the respective decisions were denials, which I fully understand and accept, the board offered the type of feedback and commentary that has continued to motivate me to continue seeking reinstatement, to continue focusing on rehabilitation, included continued work on full acceptance, responsibility, and remorse for my crimes and the need for more time to pass. That's what they suggested. I believe I have successfully completed the work to fulfill these recommendations and am committed to continuing this work indefinitely. In my opinion, my moral and ethical compass will never allow me to commit the crimes that I did in the past. Evidence documenting my rehabilitation, a brief statement. As noted previously, I have submitted a total of 5 binders with 94 exhibits, excuse me.
If you could slow down a little bit, sir, for the court
Okay,
reporter and
sorry.
for me, thank you.
That document much of my employment for more than a decade in the following fields: substance abuse and mental health field as a case manager in treatment programs, 1 inpatient and 1 outpatient. In total, I worked as a case manager for about 5 years and always followed all job requirements and never had a negative performance evaluation. As in other professions related to mental health, these are socially and legally responsible jobs. In these capacities, I had to interact with many medical and mental health professionals, including psychiatrists and psychologists, as well as medical doctors. Research as a field interviewer with the National Opinion Research Center, NORC, at the University of Chicago. In total, I have worked with NORC since 2019 and have conducted interviews with respondents both on the phone and in person. I've worked on projects related to health and early education and continue to work with this organization. This is a socially and legally responsible job, given that these studies are funded by the federal government and highly scrutinize the work of field interviewers like myself, including undergoing background checks. 3, education as an adjunct professor in psychology and criminal justice at Northern New Mexico College in Española, New Mexico, since January 2021. As highlighted in binder number 5, Exhibit 7, I will teach 39 courses in psychology and criminal justice between January 2021 and May 2026 next year. This job, like others noted above, is viewed as a highly socially and responsible job that requires the trust of the public. A review of my teaching evaluations indicates that I'm a very successful and respected professor, and I will continue to teach at this college indefinitely. They have a commitment for that. Other key activities that have assisted me in my rehabilitation and are presented as evidence include previously attending psychotherapy and outpatient substance abuse treatment, including AA meetings in San Diego, California, prior to incarceration, and therapy after incarceration, including current therapy. Ongoing payment of restitution for my crimes, which is extracted on a monthly basis from my CalPERS retirement check. I have completed close to 3,000 hours of continuing education. I indicated here in my statement 2,500, but I need to correct it. It's closer to 3,000 since December 2012, with a commitment to continue enrolling in more than the necessary courses after my license is reinstated and for license renewal. Publishing 3 research articles in 2014 and 2015, including 2 which I completed while incarcerated, as well as having been accepted into a master's program in criminal justice at New Mexico State University while incarcerated, and having completed that degree in 2022. Having conducted 10 workshops at different educationally related conferences, including Head Start parent conferences here in the state of California, Males Achieving Success Conference, which is a conference for at-risk youth in Orange County, and doctoral level graduate students, teaching to doctoral level graduate students in psychology at Alliant International University in San Diego and Western Kentucky University. Having presented over 30 research-based papers at professional meetings in psychology, including and criminal justice and Chicana and Chicano studies, with the majority at the annual meeting of the American Psychological Association and the annual MMPI Symposium. Working to complete the revision of my book, which was originally published in 2004, the Handbook of Chicana and Chicano Psychology and Mental Health, which was originally based on a major conference that I organized at Michigan State University in 1998. Please note that all of the above experiences, which I also consider accomplishments, have been conducted with the spirit of restorative justice. That is, to make amends to society in general through work with substance abuse and mental health patients, research participants, and college students. That is, while I wish that I could make amends directly to those who suffered the most, like the patients who I harmed, I have viewed my work as a means of paying back to society through my actions. Statement about my remorse. I want to make it very clear to the Board of Psychology that I live with my egregious crimes and consequences, including the shame that I brought to my family, especially my two children, the guilt of having hurt many persons, including my patients and their families, having caused damage to the federal system, including the Social Security Administration and Immigration Service, and of embarrassment to my profession. I can honestly say that there's not one day that I do not think and feel about the harm that I have caused so many people, and of course, the shame, humiliation, and embarrassment that I brought to myself. I am not a victim and never will be. And do not blame others for what I did. I committed the crimes and I take full responsibility and will take this to the grave with me. As I stated in my responses to the questions posed by the Board of Psychology in the application for reinstatement, I am not the person that I was during the period of 2010, 2012, when I lost my moral compass for many reasons, but none justified my actions or that serve as excuses. Well, I will not go into great detail about my religious beliefs. I only say that I never walked away from my faith and am now stronger because of the lessons that I have learned, albeit the lessons that were and are very difficult and painful. I grew up Catholic and spent time reflecting on my sins by myself and sometimes with the aid of a priest. In my application or petition, I mentioned the assistance of the late Father Brown gave me prior to my incarceration and how it remains inside of my heart. As I just noted, I live with my remorse every day of my life and will for the rest of my life. I wish that I could make amends to all the people that I harmed, the patients and their families, the government, the profession, my community, including many friends that I lost, and of course, my family, especially my two children. 12 years after the commission of my crimes, I continue to work on my relationship with my children as I traumatized them in ways that one cannot imagine. One day I was their hero, and the next day, major disappointment in their life. I humiliated and harmed them so much and continue to work on forgiveness, which is a lifelong process. Statement about not reoffending. I would like to address the issues of reoffending, and I will never commit the crimes that I did in the past. First, I am too old to go to prison and do not want to experience incarceration again, including the loss of one's complete freedom. I am 68 years old, and while not having a lot of medical conditions, I do have type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure on a daily basis. I have to manage type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure on a daily basis. I have these conditions under control and do not want these conditions to worsen under those conditions of incarceration. I pledge to the court and the Board of Psychology that I will never agree to sign off on any paperwork that has to do with disability benefits or waivers of the citizenship examination, and will always fulfill this pledge. I have too much to lose at this time in my life as it relates to my children, extended family, friends, and professional colleagues. I know that if I commit another crime, that I will lose trust of all of these people and will be alone in this world. I do not want to experience this situation. Many of these people have written letters that attest to my character and the growth and wisdom that I have gained over the past decade, and I do not want to lose their belief in me. Others have written quite strongly about their belief that I can still make contributions to the field of psychology at multiple levels. I appreciate that they continue to believe in me. Regarding my children, I know that my children want children someday, and I do not want to miss out on the opportunity of being a grandparent. I do not want my future grandchildren to visit me in prison. 4, I do not want all of the work that I have done over the past years to go to waste by committing a crime. As one can see, I have poured all of my energy, my heart, into regaining my license through discipline, as we say in Spanish, ganas, or desire and passion. Finally, I am now at the last stage of my life, as Erik Erikson would say, the great psychologist, once observed, and now I have to decide between achieving wisdom or despair. I prefer wisdom over despair. The major reason that I left California for New Mexico and then to Arizona was to work on myself as a personal vision quest. The vision quest continues today as I have reached a high level of contentment, self-understanding, and a purpose to life. My moral compass is set straight and will never be impacted in a negative way again. Current and professional support system. It is said that going through a personal tragedy brings clarity as to who your friends really are, and this was clearly the case for me. I have three groups of friends today. Those who are from my childhood, friends from my undergraduate studies at the University of California, Riverside from the late 70s and early 1980s, and friends from the profession of the profession of psychology. Collectively, these friends continue to form my current and future support system. They have been there for me throughout this process and have never walked away from me. In particular, those who work in the profession of psychology not only fully support my petition for reinstatement of the license, but also have offered to assist me in all aspects of my transition back into the profession. They have also offered to listen, and I say that in quotes, to me should I encounter an ethical or professional dilemma, and offer professional feedback and advice. In addition, many of these professionals are very prominent in the field and would not risk their reputation if they did not believe in me and my pursuit of reinstatement. Concluding statement. In conclusion, I ask the California Board of Psychology to approve my petition for reinstatement of the license to practice psychology in the state of California based on all of the evidence that I have provided to the enforcement unit, including 5 binders. I have them here, of which 1 through 3, were included in my petition as my previous communications with Analyst M. A fourth was submitted in 2024, a 4th binder, I'm sorry, and a final binder was recently submitted to Ms. Rebecca Smith, Attorney General, in the form of a 3-part PDF form. I believe that this evidence speaks well to my rehabilitation and preparedness to re-enter the profession of psychology. It is important for me to emphasize that my rehabilitation will never end, and that the path that I have chosen through these and other activities will continue for the remainder of my life. I believe my psychologist, my therapist currently, and support network believe that I have made a very sincere effort to rehabilitate myself and will continue as well. My plan in the future is to work as a psychologist with particular populations, including the children of the incarcerated and returning citizens, those that are going into reentry. I met many who struggled when they were coming out. I was very fortunate. And as a consultant, I also want to be a consultant in psychological assessment and testing, which was always one of my specialties, and in supervision of master's and doctoral students. I'm also open to teaching graduate level students at other universities in areas related to restorative justice, psychology of poverty, and trauma. I thank the Board of Psychology, Ms. Rebecca Smith, Deputy Attorney General, and Your Honor, you, for being present at this hearing today. As I noted previously, I'm very transparent about my rehabilitation and invite any inquiries from the Board of Psychology or from Ms. Smith or from you, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. Briefly, on October 27th, 1992, the board issued a psychology license to petitioner. On March 29th, 2013, petitioner pled guilty in federal court to making false statements on immigration documents and applications for Social Security insurance disability benefits while working as a psychologist. He was sentenced to serve 21 months in federal prison in order to pay restitution to the Social Security Administration in the amount of $1.5 million. On May 15th, 2023, an accusation was filed against petitioner. That accusation was amended on July 3rd, 2013, setting forth 2 causes for discipline: conviction of crimes substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of a psychologist, and commission of dishonest, corrupt, or fraudulent acts. In December of 2013, petitioner entered into a stipulated surrender of his psychology license. Effective March 2nd, 2014, the board adopted petitioner's stipulated surrender of his license. On May 31st, 2017, petitioner filed his first petition for reinstatement of his surrendered license. That petition was denied by the board on July 18th of 2018. The board found that petitioner had not established by clear and convincing evidence sufficient to warrant reinstatement because too little time had passed since the commission of his crimes and the termination of his supervised release. In addition, petitioner did not provide sufficient evidence that he recognized the full import of his crimes and petitioner failed to develop effective strategies to avoid engaging in inappropriate advocacy in the future. On September 23rd, 2019, petitioner filed a second petition for reinstatement of his surrendered license. That petition was denied by the board on April 15th of 2021. The board found that petitioner did not show sufficient rehabilitation to warrant reinstatement. On March 13th, 2024, petitioner submitted his third petition for reinstatement and today seeks reinstatement of his psychology license. And that's what brings us here today before the board. And if the court would like, I will identify the exhibits for the hearing.
Yes, that would be helpful. I have them in an electronic evidence system that Ms. Smith has uploaded the documents, including various of the binders, but I'll have you identify those, please.
Exhibit 1 is the petition for reinstatement of the surrendered license application and the attachments.
Okay. Mr. Velazquez, any objection to me admitting that for purposes of the?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then 1 is marked and admitted.
Exhibit 2 is the certificate of licensure for petitioner.
Any objection on that one?
No, Your Honor.
And 2 is marked and admitted.
Exhibit 3 is the amended notice of hearing, and I would like to point out that the amended notice of hearing has the correct OAH case number and the Board of Psychology case number. However, on page A0047 of Exhibit 3, OAH's notice of assigned hearing dates incorrectly put the agency case number as 600-2024-000-773, and it should be 600-2023-000-773.
Okay, any objection on that one, sir?
No, no, Your Honor.
Then 3 is marked and admitted, and my office guess made an error, so
Just want
on
to make
behalf of the office, I apologize. All right.
Exhibit 4 is a decision in order of the Board of Psychology in case number 1F 2012 222-715.
Okay, any objection on that one, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 5 is decision and order by the Board of Psychology in case number 600-2017-000-551.
Any objection, sir?
No, Your Honor.
And
Exhibit
5 is marked and admitted.
Exhibit 6 is decision and order of the Board of Psychology in case number 600-2019-000-760.
Any objection, sir?
No, Your Honor.
6 is marked and admitted.
Exhibit 7 is the investigative report, case number 600-2023-000-773.
Any objection, sir?
No, Your Honor.
7 is marked and admitted.
Exhibit 8 is the California Board of Psychology background investigation questions and petitioner's responses thereto.
Any objection, sir?
No, Your Honor.
8 is marked and admitted.
And Exhibit 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are the 5 binders that petitioner has submitted. And so I have included them, but I believe that they're administrative hearsay.
Okay. So these are the you want introduced, sir?
Yes.
And some, can you, I know it's a lot of paperwork. Can you summarize the contents of them for me, please?
The binders contain proof of employment over the years, and whether it's in mental health, or whether it's in teaching, or whether it's in research documents. Also, my continuing education hours that I have been doing since December 2012 all the way to recently. and which is close to 3,000 hours. Documents all of the letters of recommendation. I have attached in the binder letters of recommendation for the first application, for the second, and for the third. So they're also included in there as well. Samples of all of my syllabi from the classes that I've taught at Northern New Mexico College. So that would be about 32 syllabi are in there. My teaching evaluations for the courses that I have taught at Northern New Mexico College. Also samples of my presentations at the different conferences that I've been accepted to, especially those with the American Psychological Association. And other conferences like the Head Start Conference, National Association of Chicano Studies, the MMPI Symposium conferences. There's a lot of material, Your Honor, a lot of material that I have again documented in my recovery. I've been involved in all of these activities consistently.
All right, thank you. So I'll mark those as 9 through 13, exhibits 9 through 13. It does sound as though it contains hearsay evidence, but nonetheless, I'll admit those binders as hearsay evidence for purposes of the petition. Give me a moment, Ms. Smith. I'll mark that appropriately. Okay, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Exhibit 14 is the initial incomplete petition packet submitted by petitioner for case number 600-2023-000773.
All right, any objection on that one, sir?
Can I ask a question, Your Honor, about?
Yes.
Was that the one that was sent back to me because there was a signature, I believe, missing, or there was?
Yes.
Okay, no objection.
All right, then 14 is marked and admitted.
And we would like to request official notice as to 15 Business and Professions Code Section 2962, Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 1395.
All right, official notice means the board takes notice that those are its own statutes and regulations that apply here, so.
I'm familiar.
You
No
understand?
objection.
For the board, I'll take official notice of that. I'll mark exhibit 15 and the board will take official notice of those facts.
And we would request that the board take official notice of Exhibit 16, the board's disciplinary guidelines.
Okay, I'll mark exhibit 16 and the board, of course, will take official notice of its own guidelines.
I had one other housekeeping matter on Exhibit 3. There is an affidavit at Exhibit 9, A0243 through 0264 that should be placed under seal because it has names that shouldn't be in the
Could you
record.
give me that page again?
Yes, A0243 through A0264.
Okay, this is a affidavit for an arrest warrant?
Yes, and there's some names included in it that shouldn't be in the public record. I apologize. I should have filed a request for a protective order.
Okay. The board will seal that.
Thank you.
The record. So can you give me those pages again, please?
Yes.
A243 through what?
243 through 264.
All right, very well. Does that complete the documentary evidence?
Yes, it does, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, sir. So now is your opportunity to present Any witness testimony, any other documents you may have that you want to present? Do you wish to testify for the board?
I would be happy to respond to questions. I believe I've submitted everything through my binders, through my application, through the statement I've read, to everyone.
Well, I expect Ms. Smith and the board members will have questions of you, so I'll administer an oath to you. If you could raise your hand, please.
Yes,
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you will give in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so before I turn it over to the questions, you do have the opportunity, if there's any other information you wish to impart by way of testimony about your petition, any explanation of the matters you've described. You have given a lot of information and a lot of paperwork to the board. So if you want to highlight things in particular that they should pay attention to, you can do that now. And then once you're ready and have completed that, then Ms. Smith will have the opportunity to ask questions, as will board members.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will make just a few extra comments. First off, I do want the board to take into consideration that how I have worked my remorse, and believe me, like I say, it's with me every day and will be with me for the rest of my life, like I mentioned previously. How I have chosen to work through my remorse has been to involve myself in what I know best, which has been in using this remorse to help people, again, through the work that I have done over the last decade or so, especially as it relates to being able to work in mental health again, not as a psychologist, but as a case manager, and having worked with a lot of folks who come from very marginalized, difficult backgrounds, including those who had histories of incarceration, whether I worked when I was here in Bloomington at the inpatient substance abuse facility, or whether it was in New Mexico when I worked at a community health center. And I really appreciated, especially those who had gone through incarceration. It helped me gain even greater insight and understanding that has helped me deal with my remorse again for what I did. Not to take it away, but to help me better understand it. And so that's been, I've put my energy again also into education, and I've been very lucky that people have believed in me and have given me a chance, like they did in mental health and, in the substance abuse program, but also in academia again. People have believed in me, and people know that I'm incredibly remorseful, but yet they've believed in me and have given me a chance. That's also happened in my work with the University of Chicago as well. In all of these different environments, I've had to go through background checks. I've been scrutinized and asked about, again, these egregious crimes, because they were egregious. And I've been very open and clear and honest. And yet people have given me a second chance. And I come before the board today asking for a second chance. I understand that the first application was not going to be accepted. And my attorney at that time, Mr. Frankel, said to me, you need a lot more work, but the fact that the board wants to hear you is a good thing. So we did that. The second hearing was during COVID, and so interaction was rather limited, but nonetheless, I accepted the second decision as well. I learned from the second decision. Never has the board said, don't ever apply again. The board has even been encouraging and said, you're working hard, continue, but you need more time. And yes, work on your remorse. And yes, the remorse part of it, which in past two denials, board members felt that I wasn't not remorseful enough. I had not accepted the consequences or responsibility. Believe me, I accept it totally, completely. I'm not a victim. I caused the crimes. I paid for them. While I was incarcerated, I immediately even began my rehabilitation there by being a teacher, teaching inmates, intro to psychology, Spanish classes, social skills training. I tutored individuals, many with learning disabilities. I would help write letters sometimes to their family because they didn't know how to write. I did everything that had to be done. I came out of that facility, the clarity that came for me regarding, again, the severity of my crimes. And like I say, my remorse, it's there and will be there. And again, I blame nobody else, no one except for myself. And I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Velasquez.
Good afternoon.
Your petition was signed on March 13th, 2025. Has anything in the petition changed?
2025?
Yes.
No.
How did you negatively change the lives of many of your patients? You referred to that in your petition.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I would be happy to respond to that. Well, the way that I did was that individuals were either applying for SSI disability benefits or for a waiver for an immigration examination. And how I negatively affected their lives was that in fraudulently making statements about their status, I'm sure that many lost the opportunity. I don't know if it was permanent or not, but they lost the opportunity at that moment when I was working with them. And I know that it impacted them not only because it stopped their applications from going through, but also because I'm sure it impacted them in emotional, psychological ways that I'm sure were devastating to them and that I cannot even imagine. To me, I can't address too much the economic part, but I can address the psychological for sure. I guess the economic part would be that for those who had applied for SSI disability benefits, that they were not able to get their benefits, or that they would have to reapply, and start the process over again. So I guess they did. So I guess I can address it and say that it was a major economic hardship, I'm sure, for many folks who had this potential disabilities or did not have. Well, let's talk about those that did. That by me misleading and defrauding or frauding, I'm committing fraud, that I'm sure that impacted the whole process for them in a very hurtful way, which extended to not only my patients, but to their extended family, their children. Again, it amplified. Clearly, the problems I created were amplified. And again, I can never completely know the harm, but it was, I'm sure, very, very severe. And it was the same with those that were applying for a waiver because again, I'm sure they had to go through the hardships of having to go through the whole process again. And it was, again, incredibly psychologically devastating for them.
You agree you exploited your patients?
Yes,
You agree you exploited the United States government?
I did.
What did you mean in your petition that you were fully conscious of your actions at the time of the crimes?
Oh, at the time of the crimes? Oh, yes, yes. I was aware. I was aware that at that moment in time, again, that what I was doing and reflecting back on that, that's criminal thinking. That's bad thinking. But yes, at that moment in time, I was conscious of that. And I accept responsibility for that.
you also put in your petition, and that was at page A0019, I began to charge patients fees that I believed were fair and nominal or affordable, but which in the end were illegal, inappropriate, and posed an economic hardship to these patients.
I did.
You knew that these fees were illegal at the time you charged these patients, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you knew that these fees were inappropriate at the time you charged these patients.
Yes, it's very true.
And you also knew that these fees posed an economic hardship to these patients at the time you charged them, correct?
That is correct.
And then on page A0017 of your petition, you state that you will never agree to conduct evaluations for Social Security disability benefits or assessments for persons who are seeking a waiver from the U.S. citizenship examination. The court ordered you from doing such evaluations and assessments, correct?
Yes, and I also, yes, and of course I agreed. But I also, will comply with that order for the rest of my life, but yes.
And these individuals that you charged fees, patient fees, you knew these individuals were from low-income backgrounds, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And at page A0027 of your petition, what did you mean that your behavior was influenced by your thoughts and emotions, including your misguided political views that led your license to be disciplined?
The folks that I was working with were mainly refugees from Iraq. And at that time, I got caught up into the politics of the Middle East war. And I allowed that to influence me in a way that I should have never allowed it to influence me. That's what I meant by that.
And these misguided political views, at the time you understood that you were hurting individual patients to act on these views?
I did realize that they were interfering. Yes, of course.
And you also state in your petition that you knew that falsifying documents would be investigated by the federal government. So my question is, then why did you do it?
At that time, I was going through a difficult period. I had poor judgment. I lost my moral compass. I was going through a very difficult period. I had problems related to my income and the responsibilities. So I was very conscious of all of that. I am not denying any of that. I'm accepting responsibility for all of that.
With as hard as you worked for your education and obtaining your initial licensure, why were you willing to risk your career and reputation?
Well, to be honest with you, is that at that moment in time, that's when I had lost my moral compass. And that's where I didn't think twice about that. And I should have. I'm being very clear and honest with you.
And what have you done to find your moral compass?
Well, I've been in therapy, and I'm in therapy now. The letter from my psychologist not only argues that, well, not argues, but states that first and foremost, I'm in therapy. My reason for being in therapy is not it's not for the sole purpose of in any way coming here or managing this process and helping me manage this process. First and foremost, it's about me continuing to work on my relationship with my children and the harm that I've caused them by my crime committed. Number two, yes, it has to do with me continuing to work on my moral compass, which even though it's listed as number two, is still number one because it has to be. And number three, it's related to the fact that I would like to return to the field of psychology as a licensed psychologist. So I've been working on this through my relationship with my faith, with my religion, which I've never abandoned or left. I've been involved in working through all of this, the work that I do, the hard work that I do, which I work 7 days a week. I pour my heart into the work that I do. I love the work that I do. I'm not that person that I was at that period of time when, yes, I made bad decisions, totally responsible. Don't blame anyone, like I said, it was me. I made bad decisions then. But I have, again, used this period of over a decade now to get a clear head. I had to leave California. I had to leave my children so that I could be alone. And I've been alone. I moved to Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I lived for 7 years. And that was good for me. And again, there I was involved in my Catholic faith and in church. And I was involved in working, taking care of myself. The same thing then when I moved to Arizona. I've been there for 2 years. I continue to work on myself every single day. Like I say, the biggest deterrent is that every day, the biggest deterrent for forever committing this, and a reminder that I have to work on my remorse every day for the rest of my life, is that every day I wake up remembering what I did and why I shouldn't do it again or will ever do it again.
You provided a letter from a Dr. Ronstadt dated September 18th, 2025. Is that the psychologist you're currently seeing?
Yes.
She indicates in the letter that she's been treating you since July 25th of 2025. How long do you, well, for individuals therapy for a total of 6 occasions to date, how long do you plan on maintaining in therapy with her?
I will continue to be in therapy with her for these issues that I've been going to the end of the year. But I've got other issues that I want to continue to work on. So all in all, it's indefinitely. I don't see myself, I see myself in therapy for at least the next year, not only for some other issues that I'm working on, as well as to continue with my issues around the remorse, but also the issues that relate to me as having a better relationship with my children. One of my children is here today, and so I'm still working hard to fix those relationships. So that's going to take a long time. But also, Dr. Ronstadt has offered to help me psychologically to readjust if I were to be allowed to become a licensed psychologist again, because there will be a period of transition. And so she is also, in her letter, states that she would be open to working with me on that, but not as a supervisor or anything like that. But I'm sure that there will be adjustment issues if again I were to grant the license. But I do plan on working with Dr. Ronstadt. We're a good fit. We have it's a good match. So I feel very comfortable with her. So I do see myself working with her at least for the next year.
What did you mean that you plan on working with her to the end of this year regarding this matter?
Well, I'm talking about the focusing on my work in bettering my relationship with my children, because that was one reason why I went into therapy. But of course, she's very aware of everything else that's going on in my life. I've been very open to her. And so we've also talked a lot about my remorse, a lot about my remorse.
working back from July 25th, 2025, when you first started seeing Dr. Ronstadt, who were you seeing? When was the last time you were in therapy?
I was in therapy, probably it would have been maybe 2000, probably about 2007, no, probably about 2015, and it was here in Riverside. And there should be some documentation of that, or maybe it might have been submitted in a previous application. And it was right down the street here on University at a mental health center. But because I didn't have insurance, I was only on Medicaid, I was only allowed something like 6 to 8 sessions at that time. I had just, I was still going through supervised release. And before that, it was I had a year-long therapy awaiting my incarceration in San Diego. Sorry.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. That was my next question. So between 2015 and 2025, why didn't you seek any therapy?
Well, because I found a lot of the work that I found was in practicing my religion and in consulting with priests wherever I've lived. I've been very close to the priests, and I've sought them out. Before I came here today, I sought out the priest at my former parish here, St. Catherine's. I saw him this morning before I came here.
And what changed in July of 2025 to prompt you to start seeing Dr. Ronstadt?
I had been thinking about working on my relationship with my children. Case in point, my daughter has not spoken to me for 3 years. We've had a very difficult relationship. Not all of it has to do with this issue, but I'm sure that there's some of it that has to do with this issue. And so I went to Dr. Ronstadt saying, I want to learn new ways of being able to reach out to my daughter because I miss her. My son who's here, we've had our ups and downs. Right now, we're having an up. We're doing well. And I know that the therapy has helped me to get close to my children again. Well, my son with my daughter. I hope that someday we can reconnect, but right now we're estranged. So that's why I started therapy again, because I miss her a lot. And her birthday was in April, and I sent her flowers and she never responded. It's been 3 years in a row that we haven't spoken, maybe more now.
When you say that your relationship with your daughter has to do with this issue, what are you referring to? That your licensure?
The fact that I brought a lot of trauma to her. The same year that I was arrested, it was her graduation from high school. I was arrested in April. Her graduation was like in early June. And I humiliated and embarrassed my children so much. My daughter said, I don't want my high school graduation. And I didn't go.
How long changing subjects, how long have you been sober and drug-free?
Since 2012.
Have you undergone any drug testing since 2012?
Well, yes. At 2 years of supervision, I had drug testing on a weekly basis. I was living in Colton, California, so I had to report to the federal office in San Bernardino. And I was going through that for 2 years because I had supervised release or probation for 2 years.
After that supervised release probation, did you undergo any further drug testing?
No.
Do you participate in any drug rehabilitation programs?
Not at the moment, no.
Why not?
Because I don't feel that I need it at this moment in time. But what if the board were to say drug test, Roberto, yes, I would drug test. I have no problem with doing that, none whatsoever.
Do you hold a psychology license in any other state?
No,
You relocated to New Mexico and then to Arizona to focus on your personal journey and efforts to regain your license. Is that correct?
I also moved here because my mother was sick and she died January of last year, January 27th. And I moved here October, that would have been 2023, I guess. I moved closer so that I could be closer to her here in Riverside. So I essentially moved half the distance from Las Cruces to Tucson. My mom lived here in Riverside and she died. I got to spend time with her before she died. And she died on January 27th when I was visiting my son in San Diego of last year. So I also moved to be closer to her.
Are you presently residing in California?
No, I'm in Tucson right now.
Okay. If you're reinstated, do you intend to practice in California?
Yes. I would like to come back home.
And what is your plan if you're reinstated?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to continue to do my teaching, which I can do online from wherever I live through northern New Mexico. College, they've given me a long-term commitment. It is an adjunct faculty position at this point, so it's not tenure track, nor would I want something like that at this point. But I enjoy what I do, so I would continue doing that. I would continue being a field interviewer for the University of Chicago if they needed me out here. I would continue to do that. And also what I would do would be to begin a relationship with the university here that trains psychologists or MFTs, and maybe make a connection so that I would like to maybe teach a course in supervision or a course in law and ethics. I think I would be very appropriate for that. Courses that relate to not only my psychology training, but also to my training in criminal justice. And I would be open to also working, most likely on a part-time basis, in a clinic or in a program or in a practice. Obviously, that will be a challenge because whomever hires me would have to review me, would review the decisions of the board. But I would like to come back. And like I say, would I love to work in a reentry program for offenders? Yes, of course I would. Now it may be that a job in particular may or may not require a license, but it would be good to have that license for the sake of just flexibility. But I would like to work with returning offenders because they have a lot of needs. I would like to work with the children of the incarcerated because when I was at Mendota at the satellite camp, I saw bad parenting going on or the trauma of children coming to prison to visit their parents, their dads. And I've been more recently writing a lot and talking about that, like at Head Start conferences about parental incarceration and the impact on little children. And so I would like to work within that kind of an environment. Now, in terms of a specific job, I would not be able to identify that for you right now.
And that was going to be my question, to ask if you have any specific plans or anybody who has indicated that they would work with you in a particular clinic if you get your license back.
Not at this moment, but I do have friends who are attorneys who have linkages to mental health programs, who have said that they would at least make introductions, but not anything set at this moment in time. But of course, that's something that I would be more than happy to work on.
Your current teaching position that you have, is that an online
Yes, it's
only?
only. I do travel to Española probably once a year to do trainings there for faculty, to give presentations or to meet with my students who I mentor. But everything is online. It's that kind of a position.
Do you teach any ethics courses?
Yes, I have taught. I have taught ethics within, well, right now I'm teaching basic counseling skills. And within that, using the Corey book, there's a big, chapter 2 is right away is ethics. So we have to address ethics and we address that. But there isn't a class specifically that says ethics and law for undergraduates. But I do address that very carefully, not only in that class, but in other classes that are kind of practice related so that, so this is like for students who would like to eventually become practitioners at the master's or doctoral level.
In your courses, do you share the issues that you've had, your conviction, your discipline? What do your students know about?
Well, to be honest with you, that's something that I've not really shared simply because it's not something that has come up. I don't have a problem with doing that. It's just not been something that's come up to this point.
Yep. You indicated before that you had some financial difficulties. What will you do in the future if you run into similar financial difficulties?
Well, today I receive about 3,500 from Social Security. I receive about 1,000 from my retirement, CalPERS, and I'm receiving about 1,000 from my ex-wife's retirement from SD, San Diego County employees. And like I say, the teaching doesn't pay a lot, but it helps supplement, and I will continue that. So, and I don't have the economic responsibilities that I had 12 years ago when I was still going through a divorce and having to pay, for child support, which I did pay every month. I never not paid child support. And I'm living by myself, so it's only me to support, no one else.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Right now, the board members have an opportunity to ask questions, so I'll start with President Tate.
Thank you for joining us today. I have no questions.
Other board members have questions? Yes. Harb Sheets, yes.
You talked about your state of mind that allowed you to engage in the acts that led to your felony.
I can't.
I'm sorry, I'll start over. Thank you for being here. You talked about your state of mind that allowed you to engage in the actions that led to the felony convictions. And you said you got caught up maybe in the political situation and your perhaps sense of, I don't know, people you were working with. And could you tell us a little bit more about your state of mind? Like, what did you say to yourself that allowed you to kind of supersede what you've talked about as your religious belief system during that time? And you talked about moral compass. So what did you say that allowed you to sort of overcome your moral compass? And how is that, how would you avoid that? We have a polarized society these days. How would you avoid that today?
Well, first of all, in terms of avoiding it, I cannot vote. So that's number one. That I cannot do. Number two is I keep my politics to myself. I'm not public about my politics. I don't want to be public about my politics. That's actually secondary to me at this time in my life. Back then, some of the folks that I was working with were coming in with missing limbs, were coming in, had been in the war zones had been hurt. And I got caught up in feeling bad for them. I mean, really, really bad for them. And of course, the war was going on, and that made me angry. And that was the anger that pushed me to make some very, very bad decisions. That I think to me is exactly what happened. Not I think, I know that's exactly what happened. And I'm nowhere near that. Maybe I was an idealist back then still, but I'm not going there. That's not what's important at this time in my life. Like I said, I'm now at the last stage of my life. And for me, my priorities are very different, incredibly different, especially as it relates to my family and my children. More than anything, they're first in my life. I mean, in terms of fixing the trauma and the hurt. But it was because of that. I got angry, and I let that anger get in the way. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm in fact, I never use the word content. I have been the most content in my life since I moved to New Mexico in 2017 and now live in Arizona. And I know that I could stay in that space now because my life is at a very different place now. And I'm very focused and everything. In fact, what incarceration did is it helped me even be more organized in my life because I had to be organized. Not that I was disorganized, but it taught me a big lesson about how I need to be with myself. And I've been very, very disciplined and focused. And all of this here, I mean, this is an example, hopefully a good example of the investment, my desire to return back and to be given a second chance.
So if I understand, you're saying that you had strong feelings when you were working with these people, and that those strong feelings allowed you to feel like it was okay to disregard some rules.
Unfortunately, yes, doctor, yes.
So, political or not, you could run into situations again, right, where you might have some very strong feelings. And so what would be different this time within your own thinking that would stop you from thinking it would be okay to bend rules?
Well, it's not okay to bend rules. If you look at my history before this incident, before these crimes, and then afterwards, you will see that I have not bent any rules, have not committed any crimes. Maybe a parking ticket in the last 10 years, but other than that, nothing. Because I have always followed the rules except for that period of time, which I admit to. But today, like I say, I'm at the last stage. And to me, there are more important things in politics. And I will not allow myself. All I can say is that I pledge to not allow myself, because one can easily get caught up in that. And I've seen it from people that I love and care. I don't need to go there. I don't want to go there. To me, what's focusing is, again, me helping people, being non-judgmental, which is what we're supposed to be, and just focusing on helping people the best that I can. And if I know that there's a situation where, we're getting back to something very similar to what I did back then, I'm not going to go there. And I was working, even though I was working with psychiatrists, I was working in isolation. And within that it was not easy to talk to anyone else. I will not work in isolation again, and I mentioned that in my application. I will not work alone and in isolation again.
So, okay, so let's kind of transfer to, if you were to be licensed again and working in a practice, where we get challenged on rules or boundary issues, right? And, you know, if you're into sort of a boundary crossing place, it might seem okay. That could veer off into a potential boundary violation. How would you negotiate that? How would you think about it? And maybe you could, since you've been involved in the field in different ways, you could share with us some idea you have, an example maybe that you might think you could encounter.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I'm always aware of boundaries, always aware of boundaries. Probably the most recent was a conference in San Francisco last year where I took some graduate students. We all collectively presented at a conference, and after we presented, we went out and had dinner. And then a student said, "Do you want to just the two of us go and have a drink?" And I said, "No." And no, that was it. That was, I don't know. It's very clear to me what boundaries are. And so, no, for many reasons.
So, yeah.
I mean,
let me just think. I just wanted to expand on that just a minute. Did you want to say something?
well, in my culture, for example, it's not unusual around Christmas time to receive gifts, right?
Yeah.
It's not unusual for that to happen. I can take you back, you know, to the beginning of my career when, well, I have always been very clear about not accepting gifts. I've not accepted gifts. And that goes back to 1992.
So do you ever think it's okay? I mean, it's clearly a.
Do I think it's okay?
Is there, can you think of a situation in which it is okay to accept a gift from a client?
I've seen other psychologists like accept food and then share the food with people. But I've always been very rigid about that. And it's a good rigidity for me. No, I mean, I simply say, no, thank you. No, gracias. It's okay. It's okay. I don't need that. I know that people sacrifice, you know, it's a sacrifice for them, but no, I've been very clear about that.
Okay. I had one more question. Sorry, I just dropped my note. Okay, I wanted to go back to Ms. Smith had asked you about any kind of continuing engagement in, you had some substance abuse treatment that you said that you turned to using some substances during that time of stress. Maybe it was just after you were arrested.
Yeah, it was just that time and no other time.
Yes.
And it was a year that I had to wait for my period of incarceration.
Right.
And so it was incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
And all I wanted, I was not suicidal. I was in therapy with the therapist, Jeannie Hebert Brown in San Diego. And I, you know, I admitted to her, I was frustrated. I couldn't do anything. All I could do was stay in my apartment. And I did pray to God that God could take me away in my sleep, but I was never suicidal. I would never.
Can you just tell me a little bit about the treatment program, inpatient, outpatient? Do you understand what was the basis of that treatment program? Just tell us a little bit about it. And you said you didn't feel that you needed to have any other kind of continuing support since then. And the question that would come to mind is, we all have stressful situations that come up. Sounds like you use your religious belief system to help you with that. And, but anyway, well, first, if you could start just telling us a little bit about that program. What was the basis of it? What was the,
What program are you referring to?
the treatment program that you had? You said you went through a treatment program in Chula
Oh,
Vista?
it was, yeah, I was referred by pretrial. And after I tested positive, and I was in that treatment program for, I believe it was like 4 months. I mean, the point is, it was 2 to 3 times a week, and it was typically like 4 hours. And we would all, in addition to meeting in groups, we would meet individually with a counselor, and then we were required to attend AA. I believe it was twice a week. I've included in one of my binders some documentation about that includes actually signatures that we had to get when you went to an AA meeting. So the outpatient, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it was in Chula Vista on 3rd Avenue.
Right.
And it was outpatient. It was not inpatient. I never went into an inpatient program.
Mhm. And so you didn't really feel that you needed any kind of continuing support since that was a choice that you had made as a way to cope?
No, no, after that, I knew that I didn't want to go there and I had to get ready. I also had to, I also, when I got to Mendota, to the facility, I also participated there in AA.
Mhm.
And they had some drug education programs as well that I participated in when I was there. And so that kind of served as a post, experience, but still it was within, I mean, it was at the facility that I was at. And I had to be in that, well, for the 14 months I was there.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Other board members have questions? I see no others. So, sir, any other testimony you wish to provide?
No, no, I just want to say that I want to thank my son for being here. It means a lot to me that he's here. And I hope that someday maybe, well, that I can have the relationship that's beginning to get better with my son, with my daughter. And again, a lot of it had to do back then and probably still does with the trauma that I brought both of them. And so I'm glad he's here. I didn't ask him to be here. He decided that he wanted to be here. And I thank him for being here. And I thank all of you, and I hope that you can consider giving me a second chance. I'm not going to stop doing all of these activities that I've been doing. I'm not going to stop. And I'm going to be incredibly careful. And I'm not going to isolate myself. I'm not going to do that. And I do want to come home. I want to come back home. I would love to come back here because there's a big need here in this town for, and I'm bilingual. And so there's a big Latino community here, but there's a big community in general, where I know I could contribute somewhere. I know I could.
Okay, thank you. That completes your testimony. Do you have other witnesses you wish to call on your behalf
No,
or any other documentary evidence?
no, Your Honor. No, thank you.
Ms. Smith, any other evidence from you?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then each side, if they wish, has the opportunity to make closing statement. I don't know, sir, you have summarized things at the end there, but if you wish to make any additional closing remarks, you have that opportunity. And then Ms. Smith also has an opportunity to make.
No, Your Honor, I think I've shared everything as honestly as, I'm very honest about my feelings and who I am and where I am today. So thank you.
All right, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. Petitioner bears the burden of proof by clear and convincing evidence of establishing that he has rehabilitated himself and he's entitled to his certificate restored. In order to meet that burden, petitioner must show that he is no longer deserving of the adverse character judgment associated with the discipline imposed against his certificate. The board must consider the nature and severity of petitioner's acts, the time that has elapsed, and specific activities showing rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is a state of mind, and the law looks in favor upon rewarding with the opportunity to serve one who has achieved reformation and regeneration. Fully acknowledging the wrongfulness of the past actions is an essential step towards rehabilitation. It has been approximately 15 years since petitioner engaged in the underlying misconduct, and he was convicted in 2012. He completed his 2 years of supervised criminal release. He's not committed further misconduct. He's provided several thousand pages of evidence of his continuing professional education, efforts towards higher education, presentations, lectures. He has presented letters of support, proof of therapy attended, and that he has renewed his therapy. He has demonstrated that he accepts responsibility for his behavior. The people's position is that if the board is to grant his petition, the people would request that the board consider a probationary license and that the board provide oversight of his practice and guidance by placing him on a significant period of probation with specific terms and conditions to protect the public. He's not practiced as a licensed psychologist since March of 2024. He should undergo a psychological evaluation and psychological testing if deemed necessary, have a practice monitor, have a billing monitor, undergo psychotherapy, and an examination for professional practice in psychology and the California Psychological Law and Ethics examination. And because there was that period of illicit drug use following his arrest, while petitioner has assured us that it's short-lived, there would also need to be some assurances in order to protect the public that he's not abusing substances. Thank you.
You said a date he has not practiced since March 2024. Did you mean, is that correct? Or is it 2014?
Oh, it's 2014, and I
Okay.
have it written as 2014. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to
apologize for
clarify.
eyes.
All right, thank you. All right, sir, if you want to respond to anything that Ms. Smith has said, you may do so.
No, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. That will conclude the hearing on the petition, and I'll close the record. The board will deliberate at a later point in closed session as to its decision on the petition and issue a written decision as provided by law on the petition. The court reporter, we appreciate your assistance, and you may go off the record now for purposes of the hearing.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to President Tate.
Thank you so much, Judge Heller. It is 2:37 now. We will take a short break and reconvene at 3 o'clock for our next petition hearing. Thank you so much.